I put the first one up though, so I paid my dues. Nope. Just chilling. I see 12 players in lobby though. That's a little disturbing. Seems like the game's ready to go.
It just goes live and just sitting here and chat. Like the streams. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 11 here at the Overwatch League. And we got a good one here today. ZP here with Jake. We're going to be watching the Hunters take on the Charge.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty explosive matchup. I think of these two teams as right about in the middle of the Chinese division. So to see which team can actually come out on top, this makes a big difference going on as we continue this division matches. I think these are two teams where, like I've talked before about trying to rank this division, and I just think you can't really rank one of these teams over the other. So I always like to see closely contested matches, and I think that's exactly what we're going to get today, ZP.
We've seen a lot of zaniness, to be sure, where I don't think anyone would have expected the Hunters to do as well as they did last week, where their brand of Overwatch, a little bit chaotic, definitely proving to be helpful for them here in the era of hero pools.
Yeah, most definitely. But I think you can say the same about the Charge. They're a team with a lot of really impressive players that's been able to work in a lot of different metas, a lot of different strategic selections that have seemed really comfortable for them. So,
of course, let's take a look at that Hunters starting roster a little bit more in depth, and really no surprises here when you take a look at it. Really the same old for the Hunters, but hey, right now it's still a starting roster that pays dividends, right? You think about what you see in the main tank position, where Hammond swap's still very much a thing.
yeah, Among has huge impact when he plays that Hammond, but also has been looking good on the Orisa as well when the team pulls out the double shield comp. So, I like that the Hunters have a few looks they can bring out this season. They're not committing hard to the Hammond in every situation. They make it work when they can, and then they, get off it when it doesn't make sense. And to be honest, in their last week's victory, it felt like it was the double shield that really made all the difference in the world.
And of course, you look to the other side for the Charge, another team where, so far this season, again, I think you take a look at how things have been going in this region, it's been a little bit chaotic.
Definitely. They have such an exciting roster, though, I think, bringing together, players like Neptuno, experienced IGL, as part of the Philly Fusion on their first season. That was very nearly a championship season in the first season of the Overwatch League. So you bring him in, and then you also have all these young superstars. Most notably for me are Nero and Happy, but also Eileen coming out today. So it's going to be Nero and Eileen, which actually makes sense, given that we're going to Lijiang Tower. This is a map type where those core hit scan kind of suffer. There's not too much that's going to be played. A lot of Symmetra, Mei, the aggressive rushing heroes seem to be the dominant meta. And Happy, is a player who we almost can be certain will come out later in the series, to bring us those core hit scan, to bring us that tracer. I think this team has a really great, in particular, DPS lineup that can play whatever they need.
Happy, a player that was just looking completely unchained, where even though the Charge didn't necessarily have the greatest of times last week, you want to talk about a time where Happy would just go incredibly aggressive. And, unfortunately for the Charge, the risk didn't pay off as much as they would like, but it was super exciting to watch, and the raw mechanical talent can't be denied. So I do wonder if we'll see a different look for the Charge here today, where they'll get the best parts of that without necessarily some of the fights that they let slip away.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think we can be too critical of the Charge. I mean, they didn't look bad in the game against Shanghai. For me, it was really just that Shanghai looked on another level, was playing so well. So the Charge are a team that I actually think will win this series. I would give them a slight edge here. It depends how the strategies break down, but I do like the Charge's hero lineup. I think they have great players for any meta that they need.
And that's a cool thing about the season, I feel like, is that every week we see something new where, hero pools are creating a situation where, what you saw last week isn't necessarily what you will see this week. And, particularly when you see changes in tanks, changes in supports, it changes up what you see from the DPS at the same time. So, the goal here was to disrupt gameplay, and I think it's done so in a really good way.
I mean, in my opinion, this is the most fun Overwatch we've had in a long time. I think what makes Overwatch such an exciting game is that there's all these different tools, all these different pieces, and it's really not about who has the best tools. You all have the same tools. It's who can use them better, who can put that full picture together as a unit. And when you have to do that week after week after week, it really becomes a skill. Who can adapt the most effectively, which, it correlates to, your hero pools and whatnot, and how you work as a team.
Of course, we are getting ready to head into our first map. It is going to be Lijiang Tower. And it's going to be interesting to see what looks we get from the teams here today. Obviously, even right now, because of the separation between the regions, you can't always look to what happens on the North American side to see if that's going to be the case for the games taking place right now in the Asian region, because we have seen disparities between the two.
Yeah, definitely. Both teams here showing a far composition. I'm expecting to see some explosive duels here. So to start, it's going to be Jinmu versus Nero up in the skybox. I think that's going to have such high impact on how this game goes. Leave on the TP. It looks like Hunters just want to scout comp, actually not going to go with the Pharah. I have to feel like this is a big risk, though. You're giving up so much map control to swap your comp, and on Control, it's a really rough map type to do that. You know, look where Nero is right now. He's right above their spawn, and even to get to point, they're going to take so much punishment. I like this by Nero.
It's really interesting that the Hunters wouldn't go for the mirror matchup here, given how good Jinmu is on Pharah, but there is some respect being shown to Nero on the top. See if the Hunters' ground and pound strategy is going to work out. For the Charge, they need Nero to get early pickoffs of this, and they get it! Nero immediately finding Jinmu, and that puts the Charge in such a good spot.
Leaf gets crawling out of the mech, though, and crawling on the baby dude. Baby Diva is taken out by a Meng, so this is very winnable with the focus on point. The Hunters really dominate with the Lucio Moira in that location. Nero needs to find a little bit more.
He's about to get Barrage, might turn the tide, immediately drops Barrage in back, Vettel immediately falling. But it's only one, it's not quite enough, and the Charge really struggling to get control despite the Hunters able to come back in. The Hunters are very, very low. Among, Elsa, super low on HP, and the Charge are starting to just pound their way back into this one.
That was an incredibly quick barrage by Nero, and even Neptuno, I think maybe getting his res canceled, maybe missing the res there. Still, pretty unfortunate. Would have loved to have Nero back in the fight, spamming on the retake. So this will give Hunters just a little bit of a reprieve, but even though Nero came back from spawn, he's in position right now, already putting a ton of pressure on. Elsa just trying to check, find Adeline, take him out of that invis. But again, this is just free reign for Nero. The Hunters, they're going to have an advantage in the low ground fight on point, but if Charge can just outlast, eventually Nero's going to find some kills.
And the Charge here, they're trying to give Nero time. Meanwhile, the Hunters, they want to have point presence. So I see everyone inside right now, but Nero having a whole lot of trouble landing rockets, going to the back, gets the nano boost. Ju, though, already down. And Nero, not getting as much as he'd like, but the Moira out of the fight, still very winnable. Backing on out, 5-on-5, both teams down to support. Nero right now again, over the top. The EMP comes in, doesn't hit Nero of all people, so he's still able to fly. Doesn't do much for Rio.
So Nero here still getting a lot of value, able to continue to fly. The EMP did miss him, but it should just be enough here for the Hunters to be in control of point. Among jumping around, just trying to stabilize here are the Hunters. They've got point control, but now the question is how do they hold on to it? EMP and Barrage online for the Hunters, or excuse me, for the Charge.
So the Charge still in the air. Nero holding on to the Barrage. The Hunters looking for a way back in. 45 to 43, still very even. Overall, Nero able to get the pickoff, takes down Lucio on the back. Now the Charge on forward, aided by the EMP, and pretty easy cleanup, all in all.
Beautiful work by Nero. Does fall to the self-destruct, but still, now it's the Hunters actually getting another pick off the back of that. The stick on a shoot from Leave couldn't be more impactful. Keo somehow falls off the map. Nero is rezzed, but can he come back in this fight? It seems unlikely. Leave is just running rampant through the backline with shoot down. Just too hard for Neptuno to keep the rest of his teammates up alive.
Hunters able to get right back over into it, 75% to 43. And now the Charge, do they have time to stick with the Spar strategy here, Jake, with only one fight remaining?
They have to at this point. I think they're all in with Neptuno kind of close to the Valkyrie. It could be impactful, but Hunters, they've done a great job retaking this point and keeping control now. They seem so dominant. Jinmu already on 85 to the next EMP. That could be the end of this round.
Hunters right now hanging on the Charge. Way back in. They have to get onto that point. Only hack coming on out. Nero looking over. Nano boost out. Looking for anything right now. The Petal out of the fight.
Nice.
And there's Nero from downtown. Finds Jinmu from afar. And the Charge still very much in this fight.
The Charge needed that so badly. Eileen's going to end up committing his own EMP. Needs to secure this fight, but it might not even be enough here. Leave again with another pickoff onto Rio. Among tacked up. He's going to slow him down, but Leave is not slowing down for anything. Takes down Neptuno. Shoes coming back on the Moira, but it could be too little too late. Nero doesn't have a mercy pocket. He can't really commit.
All right, the Charge right now trying to get back in. The Hunters moving back over and just cleanup after cleanup at the moment, and that's going to be round one.
Just feels like the fair mercy strat didn't pay off there. I mean, you can't fault Nero. He had some great pickoffs, some nice directs on the Pharah, but it just seemed that power to contest a point with the Lucio Moira, the Tracer, and the Sombra. Leave got a ton of work done on the Tracer, really going crazy. I mean, he knows that it's a mercy, right? So the mercy Pharah up in the skybox. That means that Leave is always going to be attacking Shu on the Ana, always going to be putting the pressure on. And Nero, I mean, he got some pickoffs, but that's just the challenge of playing a Pharah Mercy comp. You need to do so much on the Pharah to make it work, especially against a comp that aggressive. And on that map, again, the respawns can come in so quickly. I think that's a great decision from the Hunters. They make it work despite having to go back to spawn on the mid fight.
Now we move rounds here, and Nero not going to be swapping off the Pharah, and I don't think there's any reason to.
Yeah, well, it's a bit unorthodox here from, again, both teams. Very, very interesting. Once again, the Hunters really valuing getting this good comp matchup. I think they really believe in their ability to win this Tracer Sombra matchup against the Pharah Mercy. I do think this stage actually is a bit more difficult for the Tracer Sombra to take down the Pharah. I think Pharah has actually a bit better position on this map, make it more difficult for Hunters to flank. You can see they're all just exposed to Nero right now. They have some shields for now, but it won't last forever.
Nero, early pickoff on the Kyo, and now the Charge in a really good spot. The Hunters, when you're down the Moira, Jake, you just don't have the sustain to deal with the Pharah pressure.
Yeah, among just getting zapped down. At least they're able to take out Shu. That's a really big pick. Should slow down the tanks, the Charge, just a little bit, but Winston and D.Va falling for the Hunters. Once Rio finishes off this kill, he'll be right back to the point, so it should be a quick retake. But somehow Elsa winning that fight. Rio slow on the jump, but if Elsa can get back in, or Sue can get back in this fight, we might actually have something going here. The Hunters doing an insane job with this delay.
Hunters keeping in contest, but still in control. So for the Charge, they're winning the battle. They're not necessarily winning the war, but Nero again, a very nice direct rocket. It's going to let the Charge move back over into the point. But you know, the Hunters still doing a great job of delaying.
Yeah, one pick has not been enough so far for the Charge to crack this open. I think they need to find another, but there's a second from Nero. And once again, Elsa is hacked up, so not able to cast that self-destruct. D-Meg now in vulnerable form. Perfect opportunity for the barrage from Nero.
Barrage from Nero opening the way. The Charge finally getting over onto the point, and it was a battle that they were winning pretty much the entire time, Jake, but it took so long for them to get first control.
Yeah, 54%. I mean, I thought they would have that in maybe 20, maximum 30, but just really nice plays. Elsa staying alive on the pilot, D.Va to take down Rio somehow, then gets back into D.Va suit. That really bought them a ton of time. I think that was a really unexpected swing against the Charge. Hunters found themselves in a tough position now. Very far. Has that EMP, so you don't want to commit too hard.
Definitely don't. Nero gets hacked throughout the fight. The Charge backing up a little bit for that. Now they use the EMP, they move in, and immediately sets up Rio Nero for the follow-through. The EMP decisive. And the Hunters simply have to back out. They Charge, they go a little bit too deep. They might have thrown a bit of this away. They're still in control, but the Hunters, they drop the bomb over the top, looking for it. They force the Charge back a bit, and the Charge still in control here, Jake, but that got a bit messy.
It did get messy, but was kind of much like the first fight, except the other way around, you know, where Hunters were delaying. As long as Charge can keep control of that point, it's going to be a big win for them in terms of control on the objective. Rio now with the nano boost, very difficult to take down this Winston. No control really available on the side of the Hunters.
Shoot, taken down immediately by Amon. The Hunters looking for a way back in the front line. Just focusing it down to start things off. Nero drops a barrage to try and even things out, but it's not going to be nearly enough. Still though, Charge in a decent spot, 72% to 55.
Yeah, Charge doing exactly what they need to do in that fight, keeping it interesting, forcing absolutely everything out of the Hunters. Eileen is going to have a lead on this EMP, but I think it's a little more difficult for him to get it charged up than for Jinmu. So Eileen needs to be quick getting this EMP. If Kyo gets that Coalescence online too early and there's no EMP to counter, that could be an easy open and shut fight for the Hunters. Now, Charge getting very close to a final fight. They want to win this one. I don't think they can afford to give up a fight, really.
No, not at this point. The Hunters trying to force a round 3. The Charge might be banking off Eileen here. 70%. They have the chance to still wait for the EMP, depending on how much Eileen can farm here. Right now, focus on the Winston. Force back. Doesn't get enough. Nero, meanwhile, off on the other side. Gets hacked. Barely able to get out of his life. 92%. Charge needing to make a move here soon.
Both teams really jockeying for control here, but it's all about the EMPs. Jinmu gets his hack broken. That's huge. He's not going to be able to farm EMP there. Eileen on 90. Very close. 95 on the EMP for Eileen. This could be the opener for the Charge. They're clearly waiting for this ability.
EMP is locked and loaded. Eileen ready to go. Waiting for the bigger EMP right now. Low HP. Can't be waiting for much longer. Shu is already out of the fight. When's the EMP gonna drop? Eileen, you gotta go sometime soon. The Charge already down 2. The Hunters just rolling around. I'm not sure Eileen's gonna get a great chance for this EMP. Self-destruct later in the fight, crawling out of it. And the Hunters holding control, and still, Eileen drops the EMP very late. It's nowhere near soon enough. That's going to be the Hunters taking the map.
I feel for Eileen there. I don't even think that's much of a blunder on his end. He's looking for the big EMP, trying to maybe shut down that Cole and get some tanks along in the process, but the Hunters are actually too aggressive. They leave point charging out on top of the Guangzhou Charge, and Eileen just doesn't really have a window there where he can actually EMP. He doesn't quite have it. I think he was sitting at 95 right when the rush comes out, and then Among moved so deep so quickly that he actually wasn't vulnerable to EMP anymore. So far the Hunter is actually doing an exceptional job playing around that EMP ability. It's so critical when you're fighting a Sombra. You don't give her those 6-man EMPs. And it didn't feel like Eileen was playing poorly. It just felt like those 6-man EMPs weren't available to him. Even in the fight they won with an EMP, I think the Hunters played it really well. They sent their DPS and the Winston to point and kept the supports and the D.Va far away in the backline so that Eileen was forced to choose, one or the other. You can have a 3-man EMP on either grouping, but not both. And I think what that does is it just creates a situation where Charge has to expend every ult to secure the team fight, and then they don't have a great position to hold point for the next fight.
Yeah, it definitely put the Charge in a difficult situation. I couldn't agree more. However, the Charge, they still have time to rebound right now. It's just one map, and the Hunters still have to take 3. Will they be able to finish it out? Find out soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. And by Zip Chair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
And we are back. Hunters versus Charge, and the Hunters striking first on Lijiang Tower. The far strategy for the Charge, Jake, not necessarily taking flight.
Yeah, it didn't really pay off here. I felt that Nero played quite well when we were on his perspective. I mean, hitting a ton of directs. That's exactly what he needs to be doing in that composition, trying to play in a passive position, at least to some extent, so that his Ana can get healed by Mercy when it's necessary. But I think the Hunters just had that matchup down pat, with the Tracer Sombra. Leave just got so much done. He felt really uncontested in that mirror match. Nero, he's the hero who's going to be hunting those backliners, trying to take out Moira's and Lucio's, but he's not the hero to take down a Tracer, aside from a lucky boosted direct, which, he's not always even going to be getting the damage boost. So great plays on the Tracer Sombra. I feel that the Hunters really, really did a great job getting super aggressive with their Lucio Moira and playing fast on the enemy tanks, limiting the value that Nero can get. I mean, even in the fights where Nero's getting the opening pick, as he's supposed to do in the strategy, Hunter's still able to win just off the back of maybe one healer, just the Moira, just the Lucio, still finding a way to win the fight. That's a huge difference maker against the far Mercy comp.
Well, the funny thing about it, too, is that normally you think about, okay, which team would be more aligned on the Pharah? You would go to Chengdu and go, well, of course, you run Jinmu on the Pharah, it's great. But when you run a composition so many times, you also get pretty adept at learning how to counter it, where you go, okay, we've dealt with this, you know, X amount of times, and we know it works really well against it. And in this case, Chengdu said, you know what, run the Pharah. We're totally fine with it because we have the answer to it.
Yeah, and the Hunters really must want that compositional matchup, starting both rounds with the Sim TP, just a pure exploratory poke out onto the map, no commitment whatsoever in terms of hero picks. Everyone goes back to spawn and switches to the counter, which they seem to believe is that Tracer Sombra, and I see why. I mean, those rounds seem clinical. Charge making good plays. It's not like they're falling flat, but the Hunters were just in control. They were in control of the ultimate economy and in control of a lot of those aggressive dive fights, just playing at too high of a tempo for that Ana Mercy to keep up.
Now as we move over into Rialto, both teams potentially showing their hand at Pharah. Charge, of course, a little bit more committed to the strategy, if I had to guess between the two. See how long the Pharah remains in play. Gates are open. Charge moving out here in the Pharah. So it is going to be Pharah v Pharah to start things out. And what do you think of the Ashe being played here by Leave?
Leave prioritizing the Ashe. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty brutal for Nero to be playing Pharah into this. Ashe is, I think, maybe the best hit scan counter against Pharah, except behind maybe McCree. That range damage, especially on a map like Rialto, so wide open. Leave should just be able to eat Nero alive. I wouldn't be surprised to see Nero going back to spawn and switching pretty quickly.
We'll see if that's going to be the case. Shoo! It's caught by Jinmu pretty early on. And, you know, for the defense here, there's so many good ways for a Pharah to just use the terrain to their advantage, even against another Pharah.
Yeah, I mean, the reality here for Jinmu is that he can just spam tanks all day long, but Leave immediately dove. Exactly, the Charge understands they're hunting down this Ashe, not letting her get space, but not finding the kill, so they're just forced to reset here. This is the difficulty of playing against double shield. It's so difficult to charge those ults. I mean, only at 30% of the EMP, and a minute off the clock already.
Nero, meanwhile, looking for a way around. Coming in from the back. Leave is down, so Nero, all Nero has to worry about now is Jinmu, and Jinmu not really in a place to contest, so a moment of opportunity here for Nero in over the top. See if they take advantage. Jinmu, though, gets back into it, takes down Nero. So that moment of opportunity gone. Jinmu for now, being very effective in the back.
The trouble is this is not good enough for the Charge. They need to do more than get a pick off, trade kills. They're going to lose if that's how the fights end up going. So long term, there's just so much more damage coming out from the Hunters. So the Charge with this comp, it needs to be a decisive fight win. They cannot get something done slowly against Orisa Sigma. That just doesn't work. You need to be able to explosively take out the enemy team, get multiple picks in quick succession. And usually you're going to be relying on your ultimates to do that. So, you know, Eileen's EMP is going to be critical here, but this looks like he's only going to be 1 of 2 for this first point if the first fails.
Oh, Nero went in for it and got completely rejected by Jinmu. Love to see it.
It was a rocket from Jinmu, followed up by the body shot from Leave, and you know, this is the challenge of playing this Pharah matchup right here is Nero, it's not a fair fight. Even when Jinmu's dueling, he's doing so in front of his teammate. He's doing so in front of Leave. So we see why the Charge have tried to kill Leave before, but in this case, Nero, I think, overplaying his hand there with nobody pressuring the Ashe.
We have things going to the opening hack for now. Looking for a way to set up the EMP. Rio getting slept to the side. Is Rio giving the getaway? Getting awfully low off the Bionade, but I think Rio was able to roll over to safety. And for the Charge, we're running out of time. Only about 1:30 left now, Jake.
We're about to see our first EMP of the match here, but Leave takes down Nero again. The Orisa boost doing so much there for Leave. That boosted Ashe with the supercharger is so devastating. That one-shot potential is easily there. Jinmu, though, overextending into Krong.
That was a no-respect barrage, and Jinmu got everything coming to him there and more. But the resurrection is there. Leave picking up where he left off, and the Hunter's still in a good spot despite, or rather the Charge still in a good spot despite how that may have started.
Yeah, the Hunters just have total control right now. I mean, we saw the Charge immediately go for Leave the first 2 fights. It worked out to some extent, but I think they have to do that every single fight. I think if you let this Ashe be uncontested, Nero just has no game. I mean, sure, he can trade spam with Jinmu all day long, but unless he hits 2 long-range directs in a row, which just isn't really going to happen, he's always going to be losing. And look where Jinmu is, immediately defensive.
Again!
Every time. He's just going to kite back like this into his Ashe, into his Ana, and Nero has no chance.
Once more, Nero challenges Jinmu and gets the rocket to the face. As a result, that approach not working. Jinmu just too good on the shutdown. Now the Charge down to their final 17 seconds. Not much time
I just think that's such a bad omen. When your Pharah has to conk boost into the other Pharah's face, you know the matchup position is absolutely terrible. Nero feels like he has to just get something done, going for this crazy hero play, but it's just so inconsistent. Eileen on the backline, but forced out before he can even get an EMP off, so this feels so awkward for the Charge. Jinmu dropping low, that's one bright spot for them, but they're not able to finish the kill.
Hunter's still in a good spot. They have the Bob here. They can just drop in the back. Charge now. Give that decent respect. They move in here in overtime, looking for anything to get things going, and Rio just dynamited down. No pressure here on Leave. Leave can turn, look towards Nero. This is tough. Eileen dropping the EMP, desperation maneuver. They get down Leave. The Charge still need to get a little bit more. Jinmu though at the back, gets the barrage flank, deals with both supports. Jinmu shutting down the Charge one by one. This is looking like the Hunters are getting a very decisive hold against the Charge.
I just think strategically, the Hunters comp is so much more solid. I mean, how many times was that? 3 times? Nero uses every single cooldown, going straight into Jinwoo's face. I mean, if you're doing that in a Pharah duel, like that's ultimate desperation. You should never be doing that. It's a lot easier to hit those shots when you're just running straight at a Pharah than when you can take those slow, measured engagements, working your way forward, controlling the space. That option is just not available to Nero because of the Ashe. Jinmu, he's always playing back closer to his own teammates, and if Nero ever comes forward for an extended duel, he's just going to eat damage from Leave and from Shu, or sorry, from Leave and from Molly all day long.
This was the flank towards the back, cleanup from Jinmu, but this isn't even the highlight of choice for me. The highlight of choice for me is that not once, but multiple times that Nero tried to challenge Jinmu and just got completely blasted as a result. You want to look at Pharah v Pharah dominance, don't look any further than that because that was just nasty.
Yeah, I'm just pretty confused why Cheesy's playing this comp. I really don't think Dive is a competitive strategy whatsoever against this, boosted Ashe strategy. I think it's just too difficult. Like, unless you can insta-kill that Ashe, which just feels unrealistic. I mean, you basically need to use all of your resources. You need to use your tanks, your DPS, and probably your supports, all putting pressure just to kill the Ashe or the Pharah, just to take out those DPS. Orisa and Sigma, those aren't even on the menu. You need to have mass ults to take down those heroes. You need an EMP, and Eileen had 1 EMP all round long, so I just feel like the Hunters have a much better composition here. One false step from Nero, he's going to go down, whether it's to Leave or to Jinmu, and that's just going to be the map.
We'll see if the Charge can somehow get a better defense, but because the Hunters' defense was so incredibly good, they don't have to go far. Puts a lot of pressure on the Charge to play perfectly now.
Yeah, I love this from the Hunters. They're playing a really defensive, really slow. Even now that they see the comp, they might like to go slightly different heroes. Elsa just considering a swap. I don't think the Hunters need to make any swaps. I think they're going to win in 1 to 2 fights with this composition. I want to see this Pharah duel, but once again, Jinmu fighting way out in the open, making it hard for Krong to get much value on the Diva. Yes, he's hacked, but there's probably not going to be any follow-up from that. I'm curious to see, though, can Nero win this duel on the defense? He has a bit more of an advantage here. It's not as bad as it was when he was attacking.
Well, he lands the first rocket, but Jinmu, not to be deterred, still looking for it. Of course, Jinmu's able to take this fight and deny the res. That could be it. But Nero, having a better go of it on the defense. Leave, struggling to get anything going. Now Chengdu might have to take a little bit more time, but Molly getting in on, takes down Neptuno! The Battle Ana opening the way. That's a 1 death that cannot be resurrected, so this is a really big opportunity now for the Hunters.
Yeah, no more pocket heals for Nero. It's going to force him into a very passive position. Shu does return the favor onto the enemy Mercy, and Nano Boost onto Rio. This could be enough to make a hold here. Hunters trying to inch the card here, not playing for the kills, and I think it's really ending up punishing them here. Primal has to be committed from Rio. This should be a hold from the Charge.
Yeah, and I think that's ult they would have liked to have saved, but Rio was very close to getting picked off, so Rio just uses the Primal to stay alive, but still not bad for the Charge. Burning time off the clock. The Hunters down to about 2 minutes now, so this is a very difficult hold, but the Charge, they're halfway there.
I think this is where the lack of a McCree is really felt. I mean, you would just want a McCree here so desperately on the offense. It's exactly that highly mobile, yet also highly bursty hit scan that is so difficult to deal with as as a defensive Pharah. Now the Tracer Sombra, though, should be pretty potent, although a bit of an awkward matchup with the tanks that are being fielded on the Hunters.
Out here finally in the Charge trying to take advantage. Rio, though, and Krong getting very low. The front line of the Charge getting abused as they move on in. But they're able to back on out and still able to swing away. Get the Nano onto Narrow. Narrow dropping the barrage, ends up with 2 in the charge. They're starting to get there, Jake. Only a minute 30 left to go.
Yeah, I think I overrated the Hunters comp here. Without the McCree, it doesn't feel like they can run that core hit scan. So Leave doesn't want to commit to the Ashe. It's a bit of an awkward pick here, and I agree with that. I think the comp would be really dominant with a McCree that could just walk in and start immediately tapping that Pharah down. But now the Hunters, not believing in their own comp anymore, are going to switch off to this full dive strategy. This is a matchup that they were able to win pretty consistently, and that's a huge pickoff. Could be difficult to res. It's close to the enemy team here, and if Leave can find a stick, that could be the point.
That's not resurrected. It puts a lot of pressure on the Narrow to be the difference maker. Chengdu trying to push forward, trying to push the 6-on-5 to end this map here and now. Rio and Krong getting very low. Rio out of the fight. And now the Charge desperately trying to hang on. They've lost their front line entirely, and now you're running out of opportunities. That's going to be it. They can't stay in the cart. Chengdu making it a quick 2-0.
Oh, that pickup on the Jinmu was so critical, falling before that last fight. You know, you could tell how close that fight was because Rio fell there, contesting the card at 98% on Primal. He gets that Primal Rage off, and we could see a very different fight. Could have even seen the rare fuller hold from the Charge here, but it just didn't quite work out for them on that defense. You know, I didn't really believe in the dive, honestly. It looked way better on defense, and I'll give them that. I just feel that on the attack round, when the Ashe has all that space on defense back in the courtyard, she can be on the high ground, she can be by the planter box, she can be anywhere she wants to be, and at any point is always going to be able to contest your Pharah. So I really don't like that Pharah dive comp on the attack from Charge. It worked much more successfully on defense, but, you know, one pick and it all falls apart. You have to have a better attack than that for the Charge.
Yeah, and I mean, for the Charge, it has just been difficult. And now, Chengdu looking very good as we look to head into the half, up 2-0. But on a lighter note here, obviously we are in some trying times, but Overwatch has definitely been touching people all throughout the world, including some of the doctors fighting the pandemic that's going on. Let's take a look.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
挺想知道你去武汉的时候是怎么想的？
没有想很多，因为就是留给你思考的时间已经不多了。他2月8号要出发，然后2月7号我们接到通知要报名，然后当时你要是不快点报名的话，就马上就没有名额了。然后我们科室他们报名就非常的积极和踊跃，所以想都没想就把名字给报上去了，然后也很荣幸就被选上去了。可能是因为我长期的在那个中正监护室待着，可能对这个危重症病人的诊治这一块还是有一定的把握。当时第一反应就是这个世界需要更多的英雄，然后自己感动自己，然后就报名了。
只能说真的很厉害，我心想哇，竟然有这么厉害的粉丝，太棒了，所以真的很厉害。
其实我对这种感觉很有感受吧，就这种上前线的感觉。我就很佩服你这种精神嘛。然后谢谢你支持我们队，看我们队比赛。
一定要加油，一定要加油！
谢谢。
你们要赢了，我们开心一整天。
我们会努力赢下后面的比赛的。
好，请务必要加油。
好。
一定要保护好自己，注意防护。再就是，好好加油。想问的话没有什么，就是我就希望你们能多赢比赛，希望成都猎人队能拿到总冠军。
谢谢。
好，那微微你有没有什么愿望是我们可以帮你实现的？愿望？对，除了拿到总冠军。 个咱们队伍的有一个小姐姐说已经给我寄过，就是我喜欢的选手的那个签名照片了嘛，我就很开心啊。我要回家把他们好好的珍藏起来。
就签名照就可以了吗？就满足了吗？
我还可以提什么过分的要求吗？
他们准备了一份礼物，让他们说好不好？
好呀。
我们准备了一个天使的大雕像，就是天使的手办，
哇，
特别好看。
哦，太棒了！可以附上你们全队的签名吗？实际上，我觉得猎人队的每一个队员我都很喜欢，都长得很帅。
除了雕像，我们这边还会准备就全套的我们之前出过的周边，然后所有人的签名照片，然后还有所有人签名的队服。我希望你能一直喜欢我们，也能一直幸福快乐。我们希望有机会以后大家一起去吃海底捞，就是你很喜欢吃的。
好啊。
我们可以
好啊。
教你玩天使。
直接跟一窝头学天使吧。
好的，一定要让他手把手教我。请把我的祝福带给成都队的每一位队员。我希望你们能在这个舞台上面越来越好，然后也希望咱们成都队发展越来越好吧。当然最终愿望就是希望你们拿下总冠军。
谢谢。
我们会努力的。
对，我一定要支持你们，一定要支持你们到最后。
谢谢。
谢谢你，谢谢你。
好的，拜拜。
拜拜。
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 It's time for your game break, presented by Pringles Wavy. ZP here with Jake, and I have to say, Jake, that was a quick game so far here. To put it mildly, halftime already over.
Yeah, pretty crushing, stifling defense there from the Hunters. They just look so well practiced. I just disagree with the Charge's strategic vision there on the offense. I think it's just too difficult to execute. Playing the Pharah with the dive comp there, I think it's just such a struggle. You've got a boosted Ashe, and she's got all the space in the world. It can be really, really difficult, and it was there for Nero on the attack.
Yeah, so of course we do have one segment we always do here during our game break, and that is Crunch Time, also presented by Pringles Wavy. And Jake, if you had to pick a moment for Crunch Time, what would it be?
My Crunch Time has to be those just complete rejections by Jinmu of Nero. I mean, you could feel the frustration in Nero as he leaps forward using the conk, using the boost, forcing the fight on the Jinmu, but immediately two-shot down by Jinmu. Just great plays from him, working with his teammates to ensure that that fire duel is never fair, and winning it over and over and over again on that defense.
Yeah, that was a real nothing personnel kid moment. As Nero, I mean, look, you had to do something, right? You had to try and stop Jinmu, but what do you do when Jinmu just goes, actually, I'm going to land every rocket. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, Jinmu even did, I think, better than he needed to there. I think even if he just survives and holds S, backs up into his teammates, he's going to be backing up into a supporting Ashe and Ana. So from Nero's perspective, how does he ever chase into that? His teammates are just getting completely stifled by this double shield heroes on the low ground. That's Sigma Orisa always pushing forward, making sure that Shu doesn't have any space in the attack, making sure that D.Va and Winston always have their hands full, just trying to keep their backline alive. So diving forward onto that Ashe, I mean, they tried it a few times, but it felt like they couldn't commit more than the Wrecking Ball and the Sombra, which just isn't quite enough. You know, if Ashe gets healed by that Ana even a couple times, Wrecking Ball, Sombra, yes, they can dive, but you really want that tracer. You want that extra diver who can really lead in and get on top of that player, but just no follow-up there on the dives, not able to make it work.
Well, it's been tough going for the Charge here so far. They have to win 3 in a row if they want to bring this one back against the Hunters. Meanwhile, the Hunters looking very dominant. What is the final outcome going to be? Join us after the break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Halftime is over, and the Charge still looking for some answers against a Hunters team that has been nothing but dominant so far. And Jake, I have to ask you once again, at what point, if you're the Charge, do you ground the Air Force? Because right now, the fire hasn't been working.
Yeah, I think it's a tough call to make because clearly it's something that the Charge have practiced a lot. Clearly they're confident. They probably had success in scrims with it, most likely because of those lack of core hit scan this week. A lot of teams probably just aren't comfortable running the Ashe. They won't bring it out. They won't try and counter you with that last hit scan that's remaining in the pool. But that's not the case for the Hunters. They're experienced in these heroes. They want to play them. You know, Jinmu wants to play the Pharah. They love that style in particular, that double shield style with the Pharah Mercy. You know, have the Pharah Mercy on the choke controlling the high ground. You've got your Orisa Sigma on the low ground at the choke. And then you've got your other DPS and your other healer way far away, like miles back in the back line, just providing that long-range cover and support. And that sort of 3 pairings of your players across the map really allows the Hunters to exert a ton of influence, get a ton of pickoffs and end fights before they really begin. I will say that the Charge's defense looked a ton better on, or Charge's comp looked a ton better on defense when Nero's able to have that positional advantage. He's not having to move forward into an Ashe and rather can just defend a location and let Jinmu push to him. Nero seemed really confident and really strong in that position. So this is definitely winnable for the Charge, even if they keep this matchup going. I think the challenge will be on these attack rounds for the Charge. If you're going to play Pharah into Pharah Ashe, you either need to instantly win the duel or just avoid the duel altogether and go for the backline. But I just think those plays are a little bit weak when the double shields are so dominant against Winston D.Va. You know, if you're going to play that Winston D.Va, you want to be diving fast, going aggressive, and that may just not be the right call here. So I'd like to see a new look for the Charge, especially on Hollywood, a map with pretty low skyboxes, pretty underwhelming map for the Pharah.
Yeah, and it's definitely not quite as advantageous as, say, Eichenwald would be to the Pharah play style, where you go in Eichenwald, you can run Pharah for quite a long period of time, especially on point A. Hollywood, it gets a little bit more complicated, to put it mildly. Now, take a look as the Charge take to defense once more, and they're still running with this Pharah here on the defense.
All right, well, what I will say, though, is this time they have the Orisa. So the fact that they're running the Orisa in this comp actually makes a huge difference to the overall strategy of the team. Instead of running this Winston D.Va where you're forced to dive quickly, burst enemies down, or you will be eventually overwhelmed, now with the Orisa, they can play the defenders. They can play a little bit more passive, which is what you want to do on Pharah. Pharah does not want to be rushed to instantly dive, chase down frags. She wants to stay up in the skybox, get a first spam kill, you know, break those tanks down low, and then commit later on. So I think the Orisa here really enables Nero more successfully. It's going to be on Eileen, though, I think, to open things up at the exact right moment, right? If he goes... Okay, that's a free kill.
Well, there it is.
But
yeah, that's a good moment right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he goes too quickly on the outside, he won't have any follow-up from his team. In that case, I think he's following up damage from Shu there. Maybe it was a rocket from Nero. But Eileen, he wants to find a hack right as the Hunters are trying to initiate the fight. Looks like he just wants to farm EMP right now, maybe get supported by his Ana. But the key thing is going to be stifling the dive when it comes in from the Hunters. It has been really deadly so far this series, leaving Among, having great synergy. Oh,
nice.
Disgusting 2-shot though from Nero.
That is just poetry in motion right there. Nero getting some revenge onto the Hunters, but that's a level of performance that the Charge are going to have to keep up if they want to get back into the series.
Yeah, Nero almost at a barrage now, getting a ton of spam down in this round. Jinmu has not had a single farming phase yet, only on passive ult game at this point, so it's still very positional at this point in the game. Both teams jockeying for this cafe position.
Now the Hunters making their move on over. Nero, though, still well protected in the back. Shoot, like that's all. Hunters down tough spot, down one already. Nero, a lot of room to work with. Just pressuring from above. Rocket after rocket. Mirage soon to be up. The Hunters just kind of on time limit here. They're going to drop the Coalescence, force far back. Just a little bit. Heavy pressure on Neptuno. Neptuno, though, get healed up. How much longer? Shu and Neptuno getting very, very low. The Hunters diving on in. Molly able to find Shu. And the Hunters, heavy pressure on the way in. Now Nero, one of the last few up. Still has the barrage up. And do you drop it in this situation?
It's so tough. The attacker spawn advantage here, I think, is just going to be too much. The overwhelming pressure here. Great work by Shu and Neptuno. They were both on something like 50 HP for 5 to 10 seconds, taking a ton of damage, but just healing each other up. Doing a great job trying their best to outlast. Shu just couldn't get his native boost off on time, but now he does bring it in. Gonna bring it on to Nero, but Nero's chasing down Amora, and that's not looking good. Elsa right in his face, stifling the damage.
That was rough for Nero. You get the nano, but you still have the D.Va smothering you all the while. Meanwhile, Cleave on the ground ends up with 2. And the Hunters just kind of swarming over the Charge. And unfortunately for the Charge, they weren't able to find a pick or two to stem the tide.
I think the thing about this comp is it's just such a difficult comp for Shu to play. It's so much pressure on Shu. Literally all 6 players from the Hunters are going to be hunting this Ana down, chasing her wherever she may go to hide. Neptuno is going to be forced to come back and help Shu, or Shu will be going down, but at the same time, that means you're exposing Nero.
See the the final bit of cleanup here, where it's pretty much all but over, but Leave ensuring that was the case, even as the Hunters had a numerical advantage at this point.
Yeah, Charge on this high ground, defensively set up here. But Jinwoo and Leave are going to get a free setup. Leave is hacked, though, down by Eileen. That's a big pickoff. Among goes in with the Primal, but no real follow-up here without a Tracer.
It's not bad opening start to the fight for the Charge. They try to get their defense up. Falling. No, this makes it a little more difficult. Narrow getting very, very low. Just lucky to get back to Neptuno. Now go back up. Back the other way. Charge, trying to reestablish. They have the EMP up. They want to use it at the proper time. They want to wait till Chengdu's all grouped up. Jinwoo, very, very low right now, and the Charge doing a good job of buying time without overly committing here just yet.
Yeah, great job by the Charge. They have a lot of ults banked up in an advantageous position here, though the EMP and Sound Barrier could just be enough to break this open, so that's a very, very important pick onto Leave, though. Takes some of the teeth out of this aggressive dive composition.
I think Leave got hacked there, and Kron was just able to finish him off, so really nice hack coming in from Eileen. And this is so good for the Charge, where they're not just winning the fight, but they're doing it in an economically positive way. They're not having to burn ultimates for this, so the Hunters are just leaving with nothing.
Yeah, that's the second time we've seen Eileen hack Leave, so I like that focus call. I think Sombra is so effective at shutting down Tracer if she's hard focusing her, but could also be dealt with, with a little bit of support. Leave could easily be surviving these hacks. Or they could just be canceled outright. Now both teams, it's all about the EMPs. Rio gets default hacked though, but it looks like impossible to follow up. Might be having an opportunity to Primal Rage in this instance.
One focus, misses and gets denied. Narrow finishing off Leave, and a bit of a tough run there for Leave. Charge still at a full 6. Narrow able to back away from the pressure, and this has to be a reset here for Chengdu.
Really nice rockets from Narrow there, taking down the mech, taking down the Baby Diva. Now has a barrage, but doesn't even need it, as you said. Charge looking so economical here. This is a complete reversal from how we've seen these comp match up earlier in the series. I think a key difference here is on Hollywood's second point. Shu can play a lot more defensive position on that high ground above the final checkpoint. It's a lot more difficult for Tracer and Sombra to set up to gank him than it is on those flat maps we've been experiencing so far. So great work by the rest of the Charge, making it work. Ton of ults to spare. Jinwoo just forcing a little bit of card pressure, but not going to accomplish much with it. Just keep the card where it is, prevent it from rolling backwards.
The Charge are just putting just enough pressure onto the payload. They're going, okay, Hunters, you can push up a little bit. It's fine. We're going to be looking for pickoffs all the while. Now, Rio going to open things up with the Primal. A little bit of disruption coming in for the Charge, while still hanging on to all their major tools. But okay, there's a surprise bomb in over the top. The Charge able to dodge. We've gotten real ugly, real fast. Focus fire now onto Amon. Amon having the Primal stay alive. EMP out on both sides, but Narrow drops the barrage on the end, and Jinwoo's EMP didn't actually come out, so the Charge coming out far ahead.
Frag's going both ways, but Nero has the nano, and he's been deadly effective with it so far. Amon trying to get something done desperately. Leave does find Shu. That's a crucial pickoff, but I just don't think they have any answers left for the Far Mercy, so great job by the Charge, hiding their Ana so far back in this third point that the Hunters just overextend to get that kill, and it just lets Nero clean them all up. Great barrage by Nero. That was a game saver for sure.
Final 10 seconds here for the Hunters, and it might turn out to be a blessing that Jinwoo did not get the EMP off. They have a chance to go through here. How does he land the EMP?
It's going to be difficult. Does find 3, but Nero immediately strikes back. Nero just rocket jumping around, staying a bit mobile here, doesn't want to get caught. He does lose his Mercy. Shu also falling, both healers. Now it's rough. Only the HP that they still have remaining left to work with for the Charge.
Narrow getting focused down a bit. Tracer's damage still something to be respected from that range. Leave, though, chased down by Rio. And now Respawn started coming for the Charge. Both Rio and Kron very low right now, so they might have given their lives for a bit of delay. We got Neptuno back to the fight. Kron gone. Narrow still around. Looking for anything here onto Amon. Amon dancing around the payload. Trying desperately to stay alive in the moment. Still alive, was down to 3 HP. Finally taken down. On up from Elsa. Hunters focus firing in. Narrow late barrage. Does not do anything. Molly able to negate. And the Hunters take point B, but man, was it tortured.
Oof, very, very close fights here. Very chaotic. Great pressure by Leave and Among. Taking down these supports. Those are the crucial linchpins of this Far comp. You've got to punish those supports or take out the enemy tanks. I think in this map, It's the supports who want to get targeted. Now we have a full mirror match. I don't think we've seen this so far. Nero bringing out the Tracer. I really like this. On third point, the Pharah completely suffers. No real position for her to take. So really agree with this comp swap. Now it's just about who can execute better.
Charge, regain positioning. Early hack on the shoe, leaves him with nowhere to go. Excellent heads-up play, win from Jinbu. The Hunters taking advantage. Rio down immediately. Avon just dancing around, and the Charge probably gonna have to reset off this one, Jake.
Yeah, Jinmu, just a perfect play by him to hack the Moira there. Without the hack, there's no way that they're able to take that kill, but with it, it's just a free one. Nero gonna switch over to the Reaper. Could work, gonna put a lot of pressure on the Hunter's tanks, but I feel that Leave is gonna have a big opening here in this fight. Eileen does have that EMP, but if he doesn't catch Yveltal, it's gonna be a rough fight.
EMP v EMP, Nero now in the Reaper. Again, a little bit more frontline presence. Back EMP first out from Jinbu. Hunters looking for it. Eileen with the counter EMP. The Charge getting far better off the trade. Now for the Hunters, this is it. They don't have any more time, and the Charge, they're going to hold them off right here.
Yeah, Nero just too much on the Reaper. Yveltal hiding with the sound barrier successfully, but his team is actually deep in third point when he comes out, so bit of miscommunication there from the Hunters. They go in to try and force that EMP to come out. It works, but they're actually so deep that they can't get the responsive sound barrier that they had planned for originally. So the hiding play from Lucio is the right decision. I think if he gets EMP'd, obviously he's useless, but in that circumstance, really not getting the value off the beat. I think if the B had landed on everybody, could have been a very different fight with no support ults available for the Charge, but it's going to be a one fight for them, and holding on third point, still a way back into the series presents itself for the Charge.
Play a little bit earlier into the game, and this is desperation. Oh, that is sick. What more can you say to that shot? Oh my!
I love that tech. A little something you can take into your own Overwatch games at home on the Pharah. When you get EMP, when you get hacked up, can't fly, you can still rocket boost, you know, over and over and over again from the ground, and it actually gives you a ton of mobility, makes you a much tougher target than if you're just walking around on the low ground. Pharah has a huge hitbox, so you always want to be evasive. Now the Hunters bringing out a comp that was completely devastating to the Charge last time they defended with it. Charge so far looking like they want to field the same strat. This map, I think, is a little bit better than Rialto in terms of diving onto the Ashe. He doesn't have quite as much room, but still, I think if Elsa and Among come back defensively and keep Leave alive with Molly as well in tow, I think it's going to be a really, really tough match for Nero. He's going to have to win some explosive duels against Jinmu, and didn't go so good last time.
No, definitely did not. And I mean, the Charge, to their credit, off their defensive, given their offense an easier job here where they don't have to full complete the map. They just have to get a little bit deep in the point C, and that's it. So if they're going to turn around the series, they did their job on the defense. The question is their offense up to the task?
Yeah, I think this is a much tougher test. The Hunters have been really devastating on the double shield all week long. Nice moves by Rio. A ton of disruption applied in the back line, but he might pay with his life. No, the rock misses. That's so crucial there. Elsa connecting that rock certainly would have been the kill onto Rio. So dancing on the edge of disaster there is the Hammond. Now it's just all about the high ground. Ashe trying to poke out as much as she can. Same with this Ana. Applying pressure on those backliners.
Hunters right now looking absolutely troubled in the cafe. Charge applying a lot of pressure. Jinbu can get res back up. No more extra lives after this. Molly returns fire, but both Pharahs out of the fight. Nero, both gone. The Charge, though, more dominant position here, forcing the Hunters back, but be careful not to overdive. Shu ends up falling. Goes back on the Nero. Nero should have open skies, at least for a little bit here. The Hunters just struggle to maintain in the cafe.
Nano onto Ashe, though. Could be devastating, and it is. The damage boost as well. This Ashe does a ton of damage, and especially with headshots like that from Leave. What a clutch.
Some crazy mechanical plays coming out here, and Leaf, who I think was a little bit silent to a degree last round, looking revived here on the Ashe.
Definitely. That's an insane headshot, exactly what his team needed to get back in. The confidence with the Nano Boost is there. Now the Nano for Shu is available. Probably going to be going on to Nero. He's the obvious target in this circumstance, but can it be difficult to get the barrage off? The Sigma can be so effective at shutting it down. Same for an Ana. You know, Nano helps you, but doesn't protect against a sleep dart.
I look towards Leave. Again, focus fire on Nero. One more headshot came in. That would have been the end of Nero, at least until the resurrection came in from Neptuno. Hunters holding back. Both Jinbu and Leave laying the damage. Lava threat. Neptuno's down! Neptuno sniped out! That makes life a lot harder for Nero, who's still finds Jinbu. The Charge still in the fight. Nero holding on to the barrage. Waiting. Doesn't quite have the same lifeline. Well, Leave on the flank with another 2. Leave is going wild right now.
Yeah, Bob gets slept, but it does force that cooldown and still gets a little bit of value when he does wake up. Nice flank by Leave, good awareness. The enemy team Charge, they've been so aggressive, diving on to Leave over and over again. And nice delay as well on the Krog. This was really punishing for the Charges of offense, but Leave with that flank was really, really intelligent. You know, he knows that the enemy team's been diving him in Cafe over and over and over again. So this fight, he takes a different approach, hiding till the start of the fight, baits Nero out into the open, and it's just a free kill when he comes in from the flank.
Love to see it, especially for Hero and Ashe that historically has not gotten the most play in the Overwatch League. Now the Charge down to their final minute, looking at potential getting held, and oh! Among able to find Neptuno.
That was the Halt Rock there, just destroying the Mercy. Leave falls up onto Nero. Hunters chasing into the spawn for the knockout blow. Insane defense here. The double shield just looks so dominant in this position.
There's an age-old adage in sports about defense winning championships, but I'll tell you this much, at least today, Chengdu's defense is winning them the day. This has been absolutely suppressive, and there's only 30 seconds left for the Charge to turn something around.
Oh, it's so painful for Shu to go down there. I think his body might also be in a location that's too aggressive to get rezzed. So just going to be a full reset here, and it'll be a mad dash to point probably for Rio, but that's going to be desperate. 25% on Pummel Rage, not even close to that ability. He's going into a Gravitic Flux, so just keeping the point alive is going to be a challenge in and of itself here for the Charge.
Final 10 seconds remaining. The Charge trying to keep themselves alive in the series, trying to avoid a sweep. Rio in on the dive, Krong on the backup. Nero, Barrage is ready. Rio about to bite it. Bionate forces Rio completely out of the fight. Now here comes Jinmu. Nanoed up, looking for an opportunity. Eileen super low. The Charge looking just absolutely decrepit at the moment, but still find contest. Jinmu goes for the sneaky barrage out of the window. It's enough. Not so much a barrage, but the space created, leaving Elsa on the other side. The Hunters starting to push the Charge back, and the Charge out of players, out of time. The Hunters sweep them.
Hunters just making it look easy with that strategy. I love that barrage actually from Jinmu. Doesn't get any kills, but he doesn't need to. I mean, so often the barrage is an ultimate that actually costs your own life to get off, of course, forcing you to stand still. Not such a good idea in an FPS game. But that instance, he just casts it from an incredibly safe location, knows that all he's going to do is stay alive, and even though he doesn't kill the tanks, he forces them to run back into their own spawn, and it's overtime, so that costs DPS their lives, and it's just a snowball effect from there.
It's crazy stuff all in all, but you got to go and think, who is the player of the match there? It's none other than Jinmu. Jinmu, whether it be the rejections or just solid play, he had himself a series.
Yeah, you have to think that he's such a superstar for this squad. The Hunters built so many strategies around him, playing Pharah even when nobody else really was. They were the team that was forcing it, making it happen. So continuing on that legacy now, and I think doing a great job playing around it. And you also got to give props to Jinmu on the other side. He's not a one-trick. Even when they don't want the Pharah matchup, he's confident on the Sombra. Had effective games there. Next to Leave on that DPS duo, they looked really, really explosive when they brought that out too. So Hunters have a lot of good looks right now. This is a great time to be a Hunters fan.
Yeah, and I mean, for the Hunters are on an upward trend, winning another game here in the row where, the Hunters are always entertaining to watch. They don't always bring home the wins. But over the last few weeks, that trend has been changing, and it's been a good time to be a Hunters fan.
Yeah, I think the Charge here, a bit outmatched strategy-wise. I just don't agree with what they're running into the double shield with the Ashe. I think that's just a brutal situation to be playing Pharah for Nero. I mean, even when he's winning the duels, even when he's, getting aggressive and doing what he needs to be doing on the offense, it's just sometimes impossible. Sometimes Leave comes out behind and two-shots him, and there's just no way that you can react to that. No way that you can deal with it unless the Ashe is constantly suppressed. And, against the double shield, it just feels like too much of a burden for those tanks on the side of the Charge. They're doing their best to hold their own, and it's too much to shut down an Ashe and an Ana.
The tough thing here for the Charge is that this is a long day for the Charge, where the Charge, coming up after this, have to take on the Dragons, Jake, so that is a doubleheader.
Yeah, and a brutal doubleheader at that. You would have thought going into this that the Hunters would be the easier of the two matchups, so the fact that they're going to go up against Shanghai next doesn't bode well for them, but it's going to be a test of their mental fortitude here, and this nano boost plus damage boost onto Ashe. And the jumping headshot, the style points to close it out. Just disgusting stuff from Leave there on the Ashe. Love to see that hero in play. It just has such a great look, such a great style. Unfortunately, just hasn't been the strongest pick in the past, but with the other core burst hit scan, out of the pool right now. She sees some playtime and new buffs in on live. So eventually, who knows, we could be seeing some more Ashe playtime in the Overwatch League.
Very could be the case. I mean, oftentimes teams piggyback off each other on the meta. But for now, we do have to take a break. When we come back, our second match of the day, we'll see if Charge have something left in the tank.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by ZipChair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League, and by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Week 11 rolls on here at the Overwatch League, and we're going to be heading on into the Dragons, taking on the Spark here, Jake. And if the last match showed anything, is that this week, like many others, a week of chaos where you don't quite know what to expect.
Definitely not. A lot of things could be coming out here, but I think this match should be pretty exciting. We've got explosive players on both teams in all categories, really, and thinking of the roles, thinking of the rosters. So I'm really excited to see what these teams bring out. Shanghai, in their last match in particular, their executions just look so sharp, so clean. Looked like their team play in particular was really the shining light for them as a squad. So I'm really bullish on Shanghai after seeing that match. So honestly, I think Spark going to have to be pretty impressive here to keep up with that.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, one thing we saw from the Dragons last time we saw them play is that the Dragons are just a remarkably consistent roster where they don't have to mechanically win every fight, even though they're very mechanically good, because they will just over time grind down the opposition, and it's a scary thing when you're going up against Shanghai. But now let's take a look at the starting roster, and the player I got to highlight here is DM. Looked very, very good against Happy last week.
Definitely, DM was a superstar. Not going to be coming in, it seems, for this first map, but certainly I expect at least will be a fixture as we get into the later stages. Could be an off week though for DM, given that core hitscan out of the pool for now, some of his best heroes not being featured. Could be a week that we can see more out of Lip, and we know Fleta is reliable, consistent on whatever he needs to play. So as you said, I think Shanghai, they've got a really great roster right now. Don't need to go for flashy hero plays on any one role. They rely on the team play, and they actually have a ton of superstar power to back it up, in those endgame clutch scenarios. But the same can be said about the Spark. I mean, Godsby and Adora had a great first season in their rookie season last year. Gushui and Sasin also no slouches. So both teams coming in with the same comp here, all about the shield trade right now.
Not wasting any time getting started here. IDK already down. And the Dragons picking up where they left off last week. 2, now 3 quick pickoffs. And talk about players to highlight. Void on the Sigma has been a treat to watch.
Yeah, and that's just a move right there by Shanghai. Absolutely running over the Spark on this first mid-fight. Outplayed and outlasted. Fleta so patient with that ice wall. Doesn't use it at all until the enemy is in full retreat, and then just cuts out that last retreat path to isolate the enemy. Also freezing up Sasin on the Sigma, so easy kills for Lip there. And great team play by Shanghai. Well, that's a great rotation by Spark to get on the point, though.
Looking for a wave back on over. That's being quite close. Sasin, Dragons doing far better in the poke battle here so far, and Sasin that's eating the brunt of it. It's a nice defense off though. Now Bebe. Lessons on the other side. Got to be able to find a way through. 2 down immediately. Spark just able to stay alive on the point, and Sasin, great ability there to just keep himself alive.
I love that rotation from the Spark. I think we've got a very interesting series here. Shanghai's been strong, but that's exactly the sort of decisive rotation that the Spark have to do to get back on their feet after a tough mid-fight. So heads up play by them, just rushing straight to point, getting a ton of value out of it. Yes, Shanghai does have a bit of an ultimate advantage now, but it's much more difficult to leverage that when you're trying to retake point. It's going to be pretty easy for Adora to finish off his Blizzard say to keep this fight interesting.
Particularly given the control that May offers here on the point, but they don't go here on the ball in the back. Dragons just get on over. Now they drop the Blizzard. They're on Sasin. Under pressure once more, and both Sasin and IDK focus down immediately. And now the Spark, they just weren't able to land an early ball there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Spark would be able to charge some ults before the fight really got underway, but Shanghai were just so aggressive and so decisive with the ultimate advantage that they had. Didn't feel like they were the attackers there. Felt like they were in total control of that fight, so it's a quick pickup for them. Both fights have been really, really quick so far. Fleta seems very ready for this rotation, but he always has to be ready for that other option, and in this case, it allows the Spark to slip through.
The other team having too much trouble getting to point. IDK, again, getting focused super hard. Gushui dropping the early bongo. Spark. Spark, though, getting poked down on all sides and beating Lee Gon, keeping the right side. Perhaps not for long. Stand 1 gets turned on, and the Spark suddenly, massive focus fire on the way out, and then just take control once more.
I like this from the Spark as well, taking a different look onto point. You see Fleta is worried about the possibility that they'll be coming from lower and rushing onto point, and because of that, he's not quite ready to get the disruptive ice wall to stop their rotation, so they're able to get off to the bridge, get the supercharger down in an ideal location, and holding point once again. So both teams playing the positional game very, very intelligently so far this map. I think we've got a very interesting series ahead.
It's been decisive from both teams, is what you can say about the team fights. Both teams, exquisite focus fire here thus far. Not so much great at denying entry, though. The Dragons, they'll get a very quick entry onto the point. Godsby, they'll get to the back. The Death Blossom. Lee Gon out of the fight. And the Spark this time, far more decisive. Godsby able to get right into the back.
Oh, it's just the little things that I love so much in Overwatch. Godsby using his Wraith form just to dodge the boop from Lee Gon. Shoots one shot, instantly Wraith forms, knows that Lee Gon's going to have to boop, too scared of that Reaper, and then he instantly cancels it and drops the Death Blossom, and even Lucio can't escape without that boop, so critical. Adora looks perfectly set up for this.
This time, the ball comes down early, puts Dragons in a tougher spot. Void's going to try to come out, hit the flux. Spark, meanwhile, looking to slow it all down. Adora's Blizzard, well placed. Freezes out both. Void doesn't even have a chance to go for the flux. As a result, the Spark looking to take round 1.
Yeah, Adora, great positioning by him, puts the Mei wall out just in time, isolates the Orisa, and then it's an easy Blizzard to pick up that opposing Mei and Sigma. So Great work by the Spark. Just beautiful plays there. I mean, they lose mid, yes, doesn't go their way, but they're immediately back into it, rushing down lower main, an unconventional approach, but it totally works out for them, getting the retake off the back of some kills by Godsby, and then again taking a different path, going upper bridge and dropping to point once again. I love the way Spark are playing around the objective on these control points, especially when you're playing these very defensive bunker comps with a double shield, Reaper, May. It's all about being able to hold your ground and not being forced to run across open ground. And when Spark are able to get onto point, even though they're retaking, they're effectively becoming the defenders. It's forcing Shanghai to be the ones trying to cross gaps, trying to get back into position, and that's not what you want to be doing on this Reaper May. So beautiful plays by Spark to get them that first control round.
Yeah, the Spark really aren't letting the Dragons get in any form of comfort zone here either. The Dragons set up, the Spark immediately ready to knock them on down. Saucin under heavy focus fire, does not get much self-shielding that time. Both teams down the tank, 5 on 5. Void, though, look at Void. Beefy on the side, ready to poke. Dragons, though, move over to the point. The Spark trying to position for that first cap.
Yeah, Void's going to have a lot of free space to spam, though. Look at them all in this corner, taking
no.
so much AoE from the Sigma. Now the wall comes in from Fleta, enabling Lip to just carve them up.
Everyone's stuck in the corner. At some point, if you're the Spark, you just turn, look at your teammate and go, we somehow got in a really bad position here.
Yeah. I mean, with all the unique characters in Overwatch, there's always these really interesting circumstances. You trade an Orisa for a Sigma. What exactly does that mean? It's not always simple. I think in that case, you know, the Spark, they had a lot of defensive utility with the Orisa, but the poke without their own Sigma on their team was just devastating from Void on the high ground. And look at him. He's got his ult, and Saucin's only at 30.
Yeah, he's going to use that ult immediately, looking for the early flux. Tosses him to the sky. Today out of the fight. The Dragons just fearlessly move on in off the flux. And again, decisive. I love the engages we're seeing out of both of these teams.
Yeah, I think Void is cruising potentially to lap Saucin on the ultimate charge, which is actually very, very painful. I mean, this Sig ult in the mirror match, Sig ult might be the most important ult that you have. It's the ultimate control ability against Reaper, pretty much shuts down his damage entirely, stuffs the opposing Sigma, forces Orisa to use her Fortify, pretty much does everything you want. Now Lip getting contested, but instant Blizzard from Fleta, trying to freeze Bebe, and the Coalescence is canceled.
Again, the Dragons, a great engagement, used off the Blizzard. The Spark could not get in cleanly. And the Dragons right now looking to roar back and force a round 3 if this keeps up.
They are looking mad. They're upset they lost that last round. And to be fair, I mean, that last round mostly was off the back of creative retakes coming in from unconventional angles. In this map, I just don't think the same plays are available. We've seen Spark try 2 different approaches, once down mid, once down this bottom left side. Both have been shut down with ease. So tactically, Spark needs to bring something new out.
Lip right now, pretty sneaky Death Blossom, gonna get forced back, doesn't quite work out. Brian, so just kind of run down the way. Make a difference here. Drops Bongo. Blizzard is out. Godsby takes down his counterbar. Gets pretty far into the back. Wait, though. Void is still healthy. Void is still poking from the side. And this is dangerous. Such a good DPS Sigma here.
Oh, and Shanghai are committing. It looks like this fight is all over. They're about to take this second round. Void uncontested on point, just doing absolutely whatever he wants. Both supports by his side, keeping him up. Shanghai, beautiful stuff in the second round here, striking back with a vengeance.
Oh man, that was deadly. Void was able to get so much space. It almost felt to a degree like it's not something you would expect from the front line, and it probably wasn't the intent, but the actual effect of that, it felt like Void told his team, hey, you guys bait out there, fall first. Just give me room to poke them all down. It'll be fine.
I think that really just speaks to the power of the Sigma ult from Void. I mean, because he has the ult, he actually just flies up onto the high ground, and it's not much of a high ground. It's not that far off the ground, but Reaper and May, I mean, it might as well be the tallest tower in the game. You're just not getting on high grounds with those heroes. So, you know, for Void, he's able to stay alive throughout the end of the fight and just farm. I think Sigma really just deals so much DPS in this mirror match. Both teams clumping up, taking a ton of AoE. The stun so effective against Reaper. The Sigma difference here is really showing. I mean, that round was all Void.
Yeah, and I mean, between the two Sigmas, there's no denying that Void has had the bigger impact here so far. And, you know, for the Dragons, it's essentially the third DPS. Take a look at Lip and Fleta might both be down, but Void's still in the fight. They have just options. Dora gets picked off super early off the halt.
That's really painful. That's one of your most important defensive tools for this very greedy bunker comp that the Spark are running. Now Shanghai charging in to capitalize. And another mid fight goes Shanghai's way. They're so good on these mids. So aggressive, taking such great angles.
Lip getting even more aggressive, even as the rest of the team's back Antler goes, wait, I'm going to teleport into this wall. You can see what happens.
And just to go back to the compositions here, what Spark's running is incredibly greedy. If they can just survive for 10, 15 seconds of straight damage trade, they'll almost certainly win grinding out what Shanghai has to offer. So that gives Shanghai a small window, but in that window, Shanghai has a big advantage. The Lucio Moira enable them to get extremely aggressive. It's just a matter of finding picks in that window.
Yeah, and I mean, they're looking to the map right now. A good immortality field passes. BK drops immortality field essentially to save himself. Coalescence pressure still moving in. The Dragons, again, just diving into the Spark. That was full W mouse 1, and there was no response from the Spark whatsoever.
But Bebe with 3 there in the last seconds of the fight. Somehow Bebe comes alive, gets the picks that his team couldn't. Those are actually pretty significant kills because, they're not going to get Spark a fight win here for free, but they will get them through these initial chokes, which is a very, very big deal considering they're running a Hangzhou, the Zen Bap, very greedy heroes, all long-range heroes. So this could be at least the start of a good fight for the Spark, but somebody's going to need to produce some picks, and it's Void who's going to be first to that Gravitic Flux.
Bebe was also able to build quite a bit towards Transcendence at the very end of that fight, so the ult charge there alone gives Spark an opportunity. They might use this Transcendence pretty aggressively here, but they're taking their time, Jake. They're not going in heavily, and they're giving Void a lot of respect. No, Godsby caught off the halt. Here comes Void over the top, uses the Flux, and the Spark are just getting out-engaged.
Absolutely here. There's no real other way to describe it. I actually like that from Bebe holding the trance. He's not in the Gravitic Flux himself, so he actually can't protect his teammates, and by the time the Flux comes out, there's not much chance for him. Gonna keep the Zen here just with the trance, too much value to get rid of, but they are gonna switch over to the Reaper. Giving up on the Hangzhou is Godsby. I mean, I can't blame him. He didn't even have a Dragon Charge. Shows how hard he's been getting rolled by this aggressive dive, but big ultimate advantage for Shanghai. And what a disgusting wall from Fleta. That's so painful.
Definitely difficult. They just have to use a Transcendence to get onto the point in a somewhat healthy fashion. If you take down Limp, Spark makes something happen. Transcendence, stand one though still in them. Lost Godsby, such an engine of damage. Wizard out here for the Dragons. They drop the beat, and again, Void, super healthy on the side, takes down his counterpart, Izayaki from the other end. And the Dragons just outflanking, out-engaging, and that's going to be it. They take map 1, and they do it in style after a rough beginning.
Yeah, I mean, pretty impressive stuff. Spark had some tricky moves on that first map. I was really excited after how well they made those executions work from tough situations, but those last 2 maps were steamrolls. There's no other way to put it. Shanghai in total control, absolutely dominating through those last 2 Koth rounds. And this is a map that can very easily, this is a comp rather, that can very easily transition to pretty much every map in the pool. Spark was the team that showed the first signs of wanting to get off the full rush comp, wanted to switch to a more greedy bunker with that Zen Bap backline, but it just didn't work out for them whatsoever. So that's got to be a blow to their confidence, as this is a mirror match that could very last the whole series.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the case. And the number one thing right now that the Spark have to figure out is how do you deal with Void? His Sigma so far, absolutely impressive. They have a few more maps to figure it out. We'll be back soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renter's insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Legend of Soulguard. Download now.
the Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. And by Zip Chair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
I have to say right now, you take a look at the Spark, they seem outclassed in a few different areas, but no more perhaps than the off-tank role.
Yeah, Void, just disgusting. I mean, I don't think Sasson played poorly by any means. I mean, just trades not going his way, but it's Void who's just making it happen for his team. Always in those power positions, closing out the late fights. Knows how valuable his own life is, and you can see the truth of that with those gravitic fluxes, constantly winning fights for his team with only that one ultimate, and that's just so devastating. For the side of the Spark, getting rolled over by a gravitic flux just because your own off-tank doesn't have it quite in time. It's a real bad feeling, gotta say.
Now, one thing we keep seeing is that Void keeps taking these wide flanks. Like, anytime you go to a wide shot of the fight, you just see Void off on his own. But Void's getting a lot done, and when you have the Sigma just sort of fearlessly flanking, is there any sort of adjustment the Spark can make here? Because it feels like they're dealing with so many threats that even if they were to overcommit to Void, something else would get them.
I think the Sigma with a double angle is really the way the hero wants to be played right now. Potentially if you're playing the full Reaper, May, Rush comp, everyone standing together, then you maybe want to group up a little bit more. It can be a little bit risky, get caught on your own against Reaper and May. But I love the adjustment that he goes even more extreme on those off angles when he's facing the Hangzhou, the Mei, the Bap Zen. That's an incredible amount of long-range shield break. He knows that he doesn't actually want to stack up his shield and try and play into Spark's game. He takes an off angle that splits the pressure that's coming out of the Spark, makes it more difficult for them to actually find pickoffs. Meanwhile, Stand 1 and Fleta are hiding on close corners with Mei Orisa, playing on that combo. So Void getting a ton done and adjusting his style to what the situation demands. You can't ask for more than that out of your Sigma player.
I mean, it's been a joy to watch, too, because I feel like you go through times in Overwatch where you look at players, they go, okay, they're playing well, but then you have a player that just stands out and you go, whoa, 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 that player's playing exceptionally well. And, to kind of highlight what you brought up in the very beginning when we started the segment is that it's not even that Sasson is playing necessarily bad. It's just Void has been exceptional in the role right now, and it's not something you see all that often. Players kind of have bubbles where they rise above, and especially the last 2 weeks, Void has just looked so incredibly good. And I think so long as Sigma is in the pool, it makes the Dragons really scary.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Void, always felt that he was a huge impact player. I thought this was one of the biggest pickups that the Dragons could make this season. I think Void is one of the best off-tanks in the whole league, so huge pickup from them, and showing his stuff, showing why they picked him up, why they valued him to add to this new superstar roster that the Dragons are fielding. Spark, they had some nice team play, some nice group rotations that got them to win that first control round, but Shanghai bounced back so strong. I mean, 2 steamrolls the next 2 Koth rounds. That's got to be painful as we roll into Route 66.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it gets any better here for the Spark, especially with how they've been playing it here so far. And, you take a look at the compositions here. They're going to be running with the Mei Hangzhou again, from the looks of it. And how do you feel that stacks up here on Route 66?
Well, I think this map is far better for this comp than a control point map, especially one that you've lost mid-fight. I think on control, this comp can definitely work, especially if you have map control, if you have mid-control. It can be really effective. As long as the enemy has to come to you, this amount of spam can be really, really valuable. But we see lip mirroring as well. The Reaper can can suffer pretty hard on this map. A lot of low ground, high ground situations where Hangzhou's wall climb. It just gets you a ton of value, keeps you shooting when other DPS heroes just wouldn't be able to.
Look right now. Looking for the corner. Looking for any arrow that can land its mark before it comes over and turn the tide of battle quite quickly. But for now, neither team doing anything crazy. Just both teams exchanging poke. And the Dragons, again, we have a slow approach here, not even really pushing the payload much, focusing on the team battle first.
This is a very close fight. It's very easy for it to break down explosively one way or the other. This time it's Shanghai taking control of this trade position. Meanwhile, their team moves up in May, and a big freeze from both squads, but Lip finds the first kill on Assassin. It's immediately traded, though.
Yeah, they get Void out of the battle. That's a good trade for the Spark, the way things have been going. Gushue moving on forward. A little bit of a dangerous spot though, the B, and Gushue ends up getting frozen and taken on down. So the trades work out well for the Dragons, especially with the spawn advantage.
Yeah, when you're this close to your own spawn, going 1-for-1 is pretty much ideal from the attacker perspective. Nice work from Spark not to fall earlier there, but it's a great movement by Shanghai. They wrap around the lower right side close to the cliff, take control of that crucial position on the train. If you don't control that broken train, it's so easy for defenders to walk up and flank you. So I love that decision from them. Gets them control of this fight and now control the map. And now it's Spark's turn to retake from a defensive position. That's the most difficult thing to do in this mirror match, so it's going to be a real test for them.
Dragons right now staying on the payload. The Spark looking for infantry. Bebe right now on his end. Could be explosive, but for now holding a bit back. And the Spark looking for a different engagement here, Jake.
Yeah, and it's going to cost them pretty heavily. They're going to be on a mad dash.
Don't even get to the point!
Not even there. Just giving up against the bat wall. I mean, the bat wall is so devastating. I don't hate it. I mean, it's almost impossible to push into that much damage at long range. But this is the reality of this mirror match. It's an extremely positional game. The key thing here for Spark is to make this neck hold work. Now they're the defenders. Now they have that double shield positional advantage. They should be able to win the spam game. They've also got that amplification matrix as well. So everything's in their court to get some control here. But 4 minutes on the clock, so a lot of opportunities for the attackers to change things up.
There's a tough window here. The Dragons have ults up. The Spark not quite there yet. So if we're to engage right now, we have quite a bit of an opportunity. The Trenches though, up. Got to be getting off the Dragon for a little bit of distraction. Isayaki though finds Gushue 6-on-5. Flip, low versus Sombra. Can he clutch it out? Looking there? No, not quite.
Doesn't need to though. It's Fleta finding pick up.
Yeah, Dragons able to just win back on the payloads. It doesn't matter.
Nice delay now, but once again, I mean, that was the fight that Spark needed to win. They're in defensive position. They should be able to win with shield advantage. But look who it is. It's Void and Fleta who rolled up on the flank on that top gas station position and just messed up the whole calculus. The defenders want to set up in a simple double shield setup.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. This is going to be such a late pick on the Godspeed.
Godspeed was hiding going, they don't know I'm here, do they? Do they? Oh,
that's
they
so
did.
Painful. This might, the Spark might have to give this up. I mean, they've got a ton of ults. They really want to fight here. They really want to do something, but this is such a brutal position, even if you're 6-on-6. So going without one, and Sigma isolated entirely alone. Just a devastating hold here. Nice move by Fleta.
And they dropped the Blizzard just to be sure. If there's any hope Sasa was going to get out, it's not going to happen there. Fleta back over. Complete cleanup here for the Dragons. So everything you're saying about the Spark, hoping for that longer point B hold, it completely goes up in flames.
Yeah, I think that first fight is the one they need to win. That's the one that is winnable. They weren't controlling the gas station flank properly, though. Fleta and Void rolled up on that side, and they were just uncontested. And as soon as on the defense, you want to be setting up in a very simple position. Everyone's shooting shields. You have more shield than the enemy because you're defenders. You win. But Shanghai, understanding that, they don't present that opportunity to the defenders. They come in from an off angle. And we'll see if Sassen's able to replicate it. Doesn't look like he's going for that play, though, and Gushue's already taking a ton of pressure.
Now the Spark right now just struggling to get their footing once more. They have the tools to do so. I think you're going to see Sassen right now look around for Flux to set things up. Bebe holding him back. And the Dragons respecting it to a degree here, Jake. They're not rushing in. Biding their time.
This is a very easy point to stumble on the offense. Your best chance to cap is that right now, and oh, that's such a huge flank from Godspeed. High risk, high reward, but it pays off this time.
Yeah, gets his counterpart, and the Spark now moving forward off the flank set by Godspeed. He might be down, but the rest of the Spark still very much alive. Moving on forward, and the Dragons in a bit of a retreat here, I would say, but it can't be a retreat for long.
Yeah, Void's doing a great job. Even when his team retreats, it's a soft retreat, not a hard one. They're able to control a lot of key positions on the map. They don't have to retake it all every single time. So getting in on this high ground is going to be a little bit easier. Still always a brutal position to be in an attack, and then pick off by Godspeed shows exactly why that is. On the attack, you're just pushing into a veritable shooting gallery here.
Yeah, Godspeed able to get another two. So Godspeed being invisible for a bit earlier in the series, now starting to turn things on. The Dragons finding time, starting to slip away. Still 2 minutes, 40 seconds left, so they have time to recover here, Jake. But the Spark have fought their way back into a map that, until this point, was looking pretty one-sided.
This last is arguably one of the worst in the entire game to take in this mirror match. I mean, the attackers have to do something really extraordinary to break this open. This is pretty comparable to any 2CP last point. The defenders have huge advantages here holding this shooting gallery. I mean, how do you deal with that? But that's just how it is on the attack.
Like
someone's going to make something crazy happen. I'd love to see like maybe a May boost around the flank or something. Shanghai, I know they have a lot of time in the bank, but you've got to get creative here. It's almost impossible to win if you give the defenders the straight-up fight they're looking for.
It's going to be difficult. And the Spark right now, very comfortable in their position at this point. The Dragons just getting picked off fight after fight. Godspeed getting away with a whole bunch of flanks. And I just wonder, how many times can you get away with that flank as a captain?
Lip is poking from that angle, so he's controlling the flank, protecting his teammates from Godspeed. Godspeed's taking a ton of pressure from Void, though.
And Void taking matters into his own hands. He's under for a bit. Now the Dragons don't have to worry about the flank. He can stay as a unified front. Spark. Back to 3. Void now decides it's time for the Flux. Nail some in the back. Bongo still up, and the Dragons commit the Transcends, but it's not time to save Lip. Lip ends up falling. Godspeed now working for the back, but in the front, the Blizzard from Fleta doing the work required. The Dragons getting the better of the fight. Still a minute 14 left, and this is still a quick time, Jake.
Wow, insane fight for that high ground, getting control. Huge flux by Void there. I mean, he does get frozen by the Blizzard, but he forces the trance, does a ton of damage, forces a ton of key utility out from the defenders, and that secures Shanghai that position on high ground, and that's the last that a lot of teams fail to cap and still win maps. So to cap that last with a minute in the tank is far beyond expectations. Shanghai are cruising in this series.
Yeah, and I mean, remember for the Spark, they lost map 1, and you end up losing here. That puts you in reverse sweep territory already, not where you want to be. And so far today, you think about the previous match we just saw, it's been a day for defense. So, you know, given how Route 66 is, given how you can get first point holds, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Dragons end up with something like a point A hold here, unless something dramatically changes for the Spark.
Yeah, definitely. I just think the Shanghai are showing better tactical understanding, and I just think that's so relevant in this particular comp matchup. You know, when they're in the dominant position, when they're able to hold, you see Void grouping up with his team, just playing the simple game. We outspam your shield, we will shoot your shield all day long. But when Void knows that he doesn't have that position, he knows that his team won't win the shield trade even if he's there, then the team splits up. They go for off angles, separations. The people on cart are hiding behind it on attack. They're not trying to spam aggressively. They're not trying to commit resources. And what that does is it creates a position where the defender's advantages are minimized. And, you know, we'll see if Spark are able to recreate that same sort of tactical play. It's going to be tough, though, because you already know Void understands that. Void is going to be contesting those off angles. He's not just going to be letting Assassin walk in and do what he just did to the opposing team.
Also for Void, you just have more things you can use on the defense and making the offense just have a difficult time to go on this map. Godspeed, off on the venture, working his end in the back. Immediate support coming in, but not really as much as they would like. Ziyaki going to fall early. Now Godspeed swapping over to the Hangzhou.
Oh, nice work by Godspeed, and a great work by Bebe as well to finish out that initial kill. Those are two crucial picks. Lip does strike back on Assassin, but probably not going to be enough. Huge spawn advantage here for the attackers, so they should be able to get this card rolling. Lee J gone, taking a ton of pressure as well. So this is going to be the end of the first point hold, or the spawn hold for the Shanghai Dragons. Now they're going to have to retake point A, but they're able to retreat with a few key players, so it won't be a full retake. They have a bit of map position, which actually is so important in this comp, not being in that hard reset territory, being able to control some parts of the maps the enemy team can't have absolute free reign to go wherever they want.
Now we'll see if the Dragons have a better recontest here than, of course, the Spark had. Where the Spark, they just got pushed out last time. They couldn't even contest point A after they got to this point. The Dragons, meanwhile, going for a split. And it is Ziyaki. Ends up getting caught in the middle of the split. So the Dragons are already working in a very tough spot. Godspeed continuing his assault here. The Dragons have to find a way to bring this back 5 on 6. Godspeed under pressure from 2, and we'll see if he can get away.
Lip strikes back onto Adora, though, and now it's up to Godspeed to get one more. Void on such low HP, being pressured from all sides. Bebe is the one to finish him off. Godspeed once again finds Lip. That counterpart duel has been a key bright spot for the Spark, going their way a number of times here, so you got to give a lot of credit to Godspeed. This is a matchup where Hangzhou can make a ton of plays, find those one-shot, headshot pickoffs to open things up, and that's exactly what the Spark need to get this offense rolling. Shanghai had a blistering pace, so they've got to keep up now.
Yeah, and at the very least, they get through point A pretty quickly. 4.5 minutes left for point B. And it's all been really Godspeed. When you look at the good parts for the Spark in the last round, the good parts here, Spark winning the mirror matchup on the Hangzhou and paying dividends.
Now both teams jockeying position on this back high ground. Lip turns it around, though. That's exactly what the Dragons needed to get position now back on this map. Dragon Strike could be really devastating here, but Lip going for the so brutal onto IDK without their main healer. How will they survive here? And it doesn't even look like Lip wants to commit his ult. He knows how easy this fight is. Whole team steamrolling forward there. It's all about that Hangzhou duel.
How the tables turn. Yeah, I love how we just get done talking about, yeah, Godspeed, he's been winning the Hangzhou duel, everything's going great. Finish the sentence, and Lip suddenly turns things around, but look at the impact on the game. The Dragons now in firm control.
Yeah, and this is where it really gets difficult for the Spark. Now they have to break this calcified position that the defender is able to create. Void and Fleta, we've seen them pair up time and time again. It's a really devastating duo, so much control, and the flankers aren't really able to get in from the Spark. Dragon might get them the space they need for just that, though.
Drop the Dragon to gain entry. Sasson, though, gets devoured. Lip landed a great Dragon from the side, deals with the Sigma immediately, and that's a signal for the Dragons to just converge on to the payload. Now, you look at the time here for the Spark, it's starting to slip away.
Definitely, and great ultimate economy there, just trading equal ults there for the Dragons, exactly what they want to be doing on defense. Love the Dragon difference there from the Shanghai Dragons. Godspeed has to use his Dragon Strike just to clear out Void and Fleta, just to be able to get through the choke and start spamming, and Lip able to save his Dragon Strike, actually punish for kills, shut down the flank, stand one, instantly burning Gushue. You have to imagine that was off the back of a headshot coming from Fleta or Lip, and the Blizzard as well going to secure this fight.
Now the Spark are just struggling to even get through the choke point now, and this is difficult. Every fight they lose burning nearly a minute off the clock. They started out with over 4.5 minutes, now down to 2.5. And the Dragons, what if they changed up here, Jake, to suddenly just take control of the fight?
And just, I mean, they're in defensive positions here, right? This is the first time we've seen it on the map. I mean, aside from that initial spawn fight that went Sparks away off the back of a huge pick-off by Bebe. I mean, there was a Sombra there as well, but Bebe did secure that kill, and long-range damage is critical. Now the Supercharger gives a bit of an opening, but the Amplification Matrix just as devastating, so there's not a big opening here for the Spark unless they can find some sort of pick-off.
And neither team ends up with much of a poke advantage there. Somewhat of a trade, and Void, oh, finds Godspeed, shuts down the flank. He's had enough of the flanking Hangzhou. Just completely eradicates, and he's not done yet. Moves on over, drops the Flux. Looking for a little bit of extra. Now both teams throwing ults here at the payload. Fleta ends up getting caught. Void, though, still alive in a great spot. Looking for the rock, looking for the finish. Izayaki in there, and Void just deep diving, and it works out.
Yeah, and Void still has this kinetic grasp, so this fight's already over. Beautiful hold right at the choke point. I mean, Shanghai, this is the only time they were in this hold before. Yes, it was broken by a quick pickoff from Bebe, but it just doesn't seem like there's any holes in this defense. Shanghai are playing this to perfection, trading ults equivalently, both teams with same ults. That's exactly what the defenders want, and Lip has a big advantage casting this Dragon Strike. It's much easier given how choked up Spark are in this low ground.
And Void just continuing to take a very aggressive flank position, something that's been very difficult for Spark to deal with. Spark going up with the Dragon, start off the fight. Here the Dragon goes from Lip, devours Dora right on the right-hand side. That angle for Lip paying a lot of dividends right now for the Dragons, Jake. Just one Dragon after the other, and somehow the Spark can't get away.
Yeah, I just think the positional game here from the Dragons is absolute perfection. This is exactly where they need to be, contesting right at the choke, making it awkward and difficult for Spark to even get their spam off, to even be playing efficiently, and the defenders already have an efficiency advantage. Spark are going to try a new approach from the high ground. We'll see if Shanghai are ready for it. Looks like they're not quite, though, so this would be a much better fight for the Spark as they get out of the high ground with relative ease here. Not over yet,
well, they don't end up getting flanked by Void this time, which helps, where before they were just getting ripped apart from the front and from that left flank that the Dragons were so aptly containing. The problem is, as they take this approach here, Jake, they're not in the payload, and it's 18 seconds left, so the Spark must get a pickoff from this rotation where the attack becomes defense and the defense becomes attack.
Definitely super aggressive plays from Lee Jae Gon. Forces Godspeed out. Lip, though, also falling to this Batiste, so good rotation so far from the Spark. This might be enough for them.
And I mean, it's looking more promising than anything before. Fleta out of the fight. Now Spark 6-on-3. The long rotation finally paying off. But the problem here, Jake, is that all their time has been burned away. They had 4.5 minutes, now down to 0 in overtime. But if you're the Dragons, you have a really long spawn time to get back. Do you even try and contest point B here, knowing how difficult it can be?
Looks like they want to. Lee Jae Gon switching over to the Lucio is a major telegraph that they want to take this fight. It's the only reason to be on that hero right now. If you were just going to go for last, undoubtedly you keep the BAP. But the Lucio is a signal. They want to rush through these chokes, get to point. Even if they lose this fight, though, it could be a good play for them. If they just force a lot of ults from the offense, you know, even if Spark captures second point, this map's not over yet. They need to do even better than that, and third point is an even tougher test. So I like to switch to the Lucio. Oh, wait, no, Lee Jae Gon is actually
going to go back to the
Batiste and still keep the fight going anyway, just speeding his teammates there, I see.
If it works out, Fleta eating a lot of damage. Godspeed with the angle. 2 down. to kick things off, and this is such a difficult point to recontest, and the Dragons, no exception to this point. They couldn't get anything going, and the Spark, they get a minute 20 left to go.
All right, I'm going to take back some of my praise for the Dragons there. I like the idea of the Lucio speeding the cart, but when they switched back, it was like, wow, why even do that in the first place? Maybe a bit of miscommunication from them. At any rate, though, last point still looks extremely holdable for them. They've got a few key ults in the tank. It's not a complete snowball here. Stand 1 with this Supercharger, that could be just the end of the game. If the offense can't take down the Supercharger, it's just an overwhelming DPS advantage. So the positioning of that Supercharger from Stand 1 going to be very, very important here in this fight.
And meanwhile, Godspeed probably going to be looking for a flank Dragon if possible. Which way? Staying on the payload, the Dragons biding their time. They know that this is essentially just about to be one fight territory. Spark need to make progress and need to make it fast, but Godspeed opens up here in the Dragon. Force rotation out of the Dragons. Lip fires the Dragon on the left side. I've said Dragon a lot. It's all entirely fitting. Dragons all fired away. Both teams still standing as Spark look to just muscle their way onto the high ground.
Oh, a huge halt into the Blizzard from Fleta. This is devastating. 3 players frozen. May forced to be in her own ice block. That's a disgusting initiation. Beautiful halt from Stand 1. Comboing in to that Blizzard, and this map's all over. Godspeed on the Tracer, 1v6. Good luck, brother. You need it.
Well, can't stand the payload, so that is going to be the Dragons taking map 2. Now 2-0 in the series, and look, there was flashes from the Spark there, particularly from Godspeed, but it was not enough, and I think you called it on Route 66, Jake, where just finishing the map is so difficult, and even when the Spark sort of had a rally there, you had to put in the context of the map, and you look at the Dragons were still in a far better position.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good rotation. I like that Spark went for that high ground play. I think maybe it was a little bit too little, too late. I kind of wish they would have gone for that committed high ground play earlier. Getting that position where they're all over the rooftops, all over the bridge, gave them a huge advantage in taking second point. Shanghai taking the side swap. We're in that exact choke they had so far been stuffing the attackers back into. So I like that rotation from them, but on third point, there's just no such rotation available. It pretty much has to come down to ultimate economy to take last point. And yes, Spark do have Gravitic Flux, but they don't have a Supercharger and they don't have a Blizzard. And those are the crucial AoE denial ultimates that are really what you need in that last fight overtime scenario. And Spark go for the high ground contest, and it just doesn't work out for them. A huge halt by Stand 1, though. Finding the 5-man halt into the Blizzard. Not so easy to get that big of a halt, and that's exactly what they needed to close out the map. So props to the Dragons. Just beautiful tactics, beautiful team play. I can't compliment this team enough.
Yeah, the Dragons, again, consistent, solid, every player stepping up, and it certainly put the opposition in a bind. Will the Dragons be able to sweep? We're going to break it down at halftime.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by ZipChair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
time for your game break presented by Pringles Wavy, where the Dragons, they've been kind of pummeling the Spark here, Jake, and it's been a masterclass in consistency.
Absolutely. I just think the tactical play has been so on point from Shanghai. Whether that credit is due to their coaching staff, which I'm sure it is, or to how well the players are adhering to their disciplined play style, their disciplined positional play. It's just been beautiful to watch, frankly. Shanghai on the defense, playing those crucial positions where they have the biggest advantage. On the offense, breaking things open with some fancy flanks from Void and Fleta working as a duo. Really, that's been the game changer here for their team. It's the strategy, it's the tactics, the team play.
So I have to ask, we saw some cool plays there, but what in your mind was the crunch time moment presented by Pringles Wavy?
For me, it had to be that on Busan second round in the downtown, that open stage where it looked like anybody's mid-fight. I think it was stand one on the Orisa falling for Shanghai, Sasin on the Sigma falling for Spark. Looked like, fairly even trade until Void comes in on the top rope and just 3 or 4 left clicks, and I think he just cleaved down half the HP that Spark had remaining. So disgusting plays from Void. Had his gravitic flux up, and when Sasin was at 33% on the next fight. So that was the next fight was free off the back of Void's huge performance in the first fight. I mean, that's 2 fights off of basically 1 massive play by Void. So that for me was just an obscene outplay by Void.
You used a great term when we were talking about that, where I feel like it doesn't get used enough in Overwatch. When you're just crushing the mirror matchup, you're lapping the opposition, where you go, oh, you haven't gotten your first ult yet? That's cute. I've already had 2. And it was such a dominant performance coming out from Void. It's what's in part made Shanghai so exciting to watch. That was our crunch time moment. We'll be back with the second half.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
And we are back after the half, and once more, it's been a bit of a quick one. ZP here with Jake, and the Dragons looking sublime. The Spark just about done.
Yeah, just so far no answers from the Spark. That first round went their way. I thought they, had a bit of wind in their sails, but it seems that Shanghai immediately back on their feet and just pummeling the Spark. Absolutely brutal holds. Whether it was crushing through those next 2 Koth maps or holding so strong in the defense of Route 66, making Route 66 offense look easy, which is an incredibly rare sight in the Overwatch League. So far, the Dragons look completely unstoppable in their division. I see why people are comparing them to the Shock.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously in Overwatch, it's a team effort, right? Where we'll highlight certain players, certain positions, and, you know, it wouldn't be worth anything if the rest of your team wasn't doing well behind you. But I just, again, have to go to the front line right now of the Dragons, where I know going into the season there were many analysts that looked at it and wondered, is Stand 1 for real? Because even when you do well in Contenders, right, you're not necessarily assured that that Contenders performance is going to translate to Overwatch League. You ever talk with Hexagrams for any moment, he'll be like, yeah, the guy's good in Contenders, but is he going to be good as he goes to the Overwatch League? I'm not sure I want to see. That's Hex. But in this case, Stand 1 has passed the eye test, he's passed the Hex test, and I'm excited to see where this goes, because right now the front line for the Dragons has been great.
Yeah, I mean, he's fitting in really well with the roster. I just think, you know, like, to add to your point about team play, I think that's one thing in Overwatch. You know, some people complain the players don't show enough personality or, you know, talk enough trash or whatnot, get out there. But I think the reality is that it's because the game is so team-oriented. You know, any high-level player will tell you that if you're talking trash, you have to be doing it just a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because a win or a loss is never off the back of, you know, one player making a hero play. You don't win a series that way. You know, maybe you give yourself that 1% edge that does it in the end, but the way you get there, the way you get to that 50% for somebody to add the final one is by this incredible team play, and Shanghai is putting that on display. It seems like everyone's contributing from all the DPS, from the DPS tanks and supports, everyone having great games. So you got to give props to Shanghai. They're looking really, really solid.
Interesting composition coming out here. Don't think they'll stay on the sim. Think it's going to swap back on. And right now, just getting some information here. They even use the Hammond as a scouting tool, and they end up going, you know what, it's time for Reaper May. Why Reaper May versus this?
Very interesting comp actually on this map. Could be difficult for Reaper. If the Orisa's close to him, yeah, as she is, he's going to have a big opportunity to get a lot of spam and just rush the enemy down. It's going to be up to Godspeed to maybe pick off a backliner here.
Let's see if it's enough. Dragons right now. Takes it to the high ground, Stand 1. Trying to power through. Look, the shield break and the Spark getting frozen. Fleto is able to get right through. This puts Spark in a tough situation. Not out of it yet. They're actually able to get decently disengaged. But the Dragons in the driving seat here. But the Spark, they turn the tide! Gushue and Auto able to turn around on it, and now there's a chance.
Yeah, Bebe got bullied off the map there, but Gushue and Rhea were able to keep control, and now with Rhea in, maybe the tank line, the new look, potentially a good one for the Spark, as Gushue and Rhea holding strong on that high ground. That ends up being the difference maker there for sure.
Yeah, so not too bad for the Spark, able to stop the Dragons. Oh, what a halt! Stand 1, that was beauty right there. The halt, throwing him to the ground. And now Lip looking to take advantage. Auto out. Lip gets caught, the Spark fighting back evenly. Godspeed back into the fight. And not a bad response after what was a very good engage from the Dragons.
Yeah, these fights are knockdown, drag out to be sure. But so far, Godspeed's been getting a ton of value on the Tracer. Lip dealing a lot of damage, but struggling to stay alive with Bebe and IDK pretty much uncontested at long range. These supports basically become DPS when they're not forced to heal. So Bebe in particular is getting a ton of value with very little pressure on him. The pull bomb!
Oh. Gotta love it! Halt into the pulse bomb. Godspeed delivering on what was set up for him by the halt. The Spark looking renewed.
Yeah, that's beautiful stuff there. Exactly the combo they needed. Turning the Pulse Bomb into this key team fight ultimate. That's the power of the Orisa Halt. Really being maximized here. And now, Shanghai, they're close to almost all their ults, but they don't have any of them online just yet. I think they need to wait for Izuyaki's Cole, but that should be up momentarily. And with the Cole, though, could be an opening to potentially rush through the choke. Rhea does have that Gravitic Flux, though.
Dragons saying, no, we're just going to go through here again. Rhea, response with the Flux. Void cannot sustain with Void out of the fight. It's looking so good for the Spark. The Spark healthy on all ends. They shouldn't even have to use Transcendence here. And now for the Dragons shake, we're down to a final minute 10. What a turnaround in fortunes here so far for the Spark.
Yeah, I just feel like the Reaper is not really working out here for Lip. He's committing on the hero, and at this point he's got Death Blossom. He might be forced to just keep it. Sound Barrier should be a big enabler for him. But Bebe and Godspeed have just been uncontested. No one who can really get on this Zen and pressure him. So Bebe's being this extra DPS hero, just pumping out the damage, calling out those Discord targets for Godspeed, and it's been working really well. Although quick initiation from Shanghai, this looks much better than the previous fight.
Shanghai needs to do something soon, or we are guaranteed to go to map 4. Dragons out. Decent spot. What a drop from Blizzard. Gushue out of the fight. Lip room to work with. Gets to the back. And the Dragons finally find a way through on point A. But the Spark, they got to be happy with that defense, Jake.
Yeah, I like the supercharger from stand 1. Just drop it in the doorway, get it out there, rush in, and they're just able to overwhelm with the help of that Blizzard. Otto's Blizzard being used in the previous fight, not available now. Godspeed back onto the Hangzhou, but here's where the Reaper can completely turn around, in my opinion. I think on first point, very difficult. You're rushing through chokes. You have to stay on a death ball. Not really much opportunity to set up and dive flankers. But now we're onto a much broader stage of the map. Hangzhou is going to come out. You know, he has a lot of range to poke with, but eventually you're going to have to come contest the cart, and it's inevitably going to be a close range fight. That's where Reaper can really start to dominate.
Spark right now looking to maintain good defensive posture. Rhea, decent spot here, trading out with Void. Poke for poke. The Dragons, though, starting to get the better of the battle. See if they decide to keep focusing on the high ground. Rhea gets a chance to heal up. Meanwhile, just rotating around, Jake.
I like this by Spark. They're not playing for multiple fights. They're just going to commit for the one good fight, give Godspeed maximum position. He can be very far back in the high ground here. Lip slipping through the flank, unscouted here, so trying to make something happen, but it's going to take a long time to make this rotation. We'll see if he gets punished for it. Doesn't look like he's scouted yet.
And one gets picked off immediately, and Lip looking to equalize. Death Blossom here to the back, finds Rhea. Bebe already down, and Lip's Death Blossom turning the tide of battle. Just finds the right moment.
Big brain flank there. I love the TP into the old spawn, completely unnoticed by the defenders. Slips around behind them and in a perfect position for a Death Blossom, just cleans it up. Shows the power of not having McCree available this week. Normally, you have those reliable stuns that shut down that Reaper ult instantaneously, but, you know, Hangzhou, it's pretty much a headshot or nothing when it comes to shutting down a Reaper ult.
And that time ended up being nothing. The Dragons, 2.5 minutes left. Not a bad time here in Nabani, but as we've seen a lot in Nabani, it doesn't really matter how you do on point A and point B. Point C is the difference maker.
Very true. As Dragons switch over to a spam comp of their own, taking the mirror match now. It's very important to see which DPS win the duel, but that's a massive pickup by Void, doing a ton of damage and getting all the space in the world for the Dragons, but immediately countered by Rhea. Not as big, though.
Goes for a flux, and Dragons able to recover. More importantly, Dragons able to turn the corner. That corner is so good for the defense. Well, Lip ends up trying to go for the flank. Shut down by Rhea. 6 on 5 now for the Spark. Gonna drop the Dragon right down Broad Street. Now the Dragons, they invest in Blizzard trying to turn it back around. Doesn't get anything. Spark still a full 6. Dragon still a man down. Gushue able to find Izayaki. Now for the Dragons, they should be considering a swift retreat because the Spark are coming in hot.
Yeah, no retreat really in the cards here for the Dragons. It's fight to the death with no Lucio. But switching over to the spam comp, mirror matching, this is always going to favor the defenders. They were already on this comp first. They had a big ult bank going into the fight. And Shanghai had to swap 3 heroes to get to this composition. So they were always going to have a really tough one here. I think to Spark's credit, though, they won that fight very, very cleanly. Now it's even ultimates from both teams, which should theoretically favor the defenders. So Gushue and Stand 1, their bongo positioning in this fight going to be really, really critical. You need that supercharger to live max duration. It's all about shield break in this mirror match.
Barrier in place. Dragons right now, two-pronged approach. Void ends up merging the rest of his team. Immortality Field immediately forced out and down, so not a bad early opening here for the Spark. And the Dragons is just one quality fight now, Jake.
Yeah, Void poking, just trying to finish his ult charge here. Dragons actually going for a very committed flank here with Void and Fleta. We've seen this look so many times, and it's worked time and time again, so I can see why. Stand 1 does lose his supercharger, though.
Stand 1 right now just stuck in the corner. Jones old evil toaster vibes. DJ gone down. Godspeed finding some room. Lip, though, takes down his counterpart. Problem is, this is far better for the defense here, Jake, and I don't think this is the winning fight for the Dragons.
Yeah, I like the idea from Void and Fleta to go for the off angle, but the Blizzard onto Stand 1 is just too big. It forces him off his supercharger. He can no longer defend it. Fleta trying to get the freeze. He just can't. Lip, though, that headshot onto Rhea is a total game changer. That's exactly what they needed. No, one shield down. Now it's only on Gushue on the Hammond to touch cart. If Lip can find one more, this could easily turn.
So Dragons draw things out. We end up in a different fight. Gushue, now the Hammond, not quite as good for the setup. Looking for a dash on in. Under a bit of pressure. Spark, slow playing through Spark. Auto is down before the transcends. Give it go on. 2 already down. Bebe has to transcend in a 4-on-6 situation. They get Lee J gone, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Gushue not even able to get over the Transcendence. Flutta starts cleaning up. 3 for Flutta, back on the payload. It's Flutta and Void. And the Dragons find a way through as time ticks away.
I said Lip needed one more, and he delivered exactly that, taking down Otto. Then the Flux coming in by Void. Picks up Rhea, and even though the Flux isn't what kills him, they pick him up out of the Transcendence so that the spam from Mei and Hangzhou can finish off that Sigma. Insane stuff there from Shanghai. I thought the Spark had that defense locked up. Maybe a bit of a mistake there, switching over to the Hammond a bit early. I think an Orisa would have been more effective in that long, sustained engagement. But there it is, Shanghai taking 3rd point. And my question is, can Spark break first? Because after the hold that Shanghai put out on Route 66, 2nd point defense, I'm really worried about the ability of Spark to break these very advantageous defender holds. And Nimbani first is one of the most brutal in the game.
It's been a day for defense, what we've seen. And the interesting thing to me is that it's been a day for defense with very different looks about how to do it, where you compare this match to the match we saw earlier in the day, right, where there was a lot more Pharah, there was Ashe being played, of all things, and Chengdu looked very good with that sort of defense. Now, we're something that's been a little bit more traditional nowadays with more Mei Reaper, but defense has still been at a huge advantage. Why do you think it's been such a tough day for offense, seemingly?
I think it's the nature of the double shield comp. Shield strategies are always favoring the defenders because you're able to put down that initial Orisa shield before the fight even starts, and then drop your second one as soon as the first breaks, which is not a luxury that the attackers have. So fundamentally, the defenders are always going to win the shield trade. And what that does is just leads to constantly having more ults, constantly staying ahead. But just means the attackers have to be wily, they have to be creative. That's why we've been seeing Void and Fleta always going on these off-angled partner flanks. But whoa, this is a very aggressive defense from Shanghai, looking very deadly. Otto with the fully defensive wall just to stop that rush. He smelled that one coming.
Yeah, and I mean, that also could have been a really big play from Otto if you do it the wall a little bit further back, get the split. The balls again, and it's getting chilly in here, and Void couldn't stand the cold. Down immediately, the Spark up 1, and you see if they're able to snowball into this here, stand one out of the fight. So the front line for the Dragons, their shining point is down. The Spark have a real big opportunity here, and Bebe ready to clean up.
Potentially a bit over-aggressive. We're the defenders pushing aggressively in, but there's a Batiste and a Zen just spamming down in that hallway, and if you can't end the engagement very, very quickly on the Mei Reaper, it won't go in your favor. That's the power of these long extended engagements with the Bab Zen. You're always going to be out-damaging, especially with Hangzhou by your side. So good plays by Shanghai getting aggressive, but I think overplaying their hand there. I would have liked them to see it wait a little bit longer. The offense has to peek out that high ground, but this time Shanghai wants to keep the fight going. Ooh, no chance. Beautiful cap. Nice Mei wall by Otto.
Yeah, they don't quite get to the point. Izyaki's out of it. Now for the Dragons, just go, okay. Time to slap ourselves, wake up a little bit, figure out what in the world to change up here. Li Jaegon, I think one of the things is changing Lucio. Or nope,
no,
just taxi.
Just get an epic It's a nice rollout. That was beautiful. Love watching the expert hands on the Lucio with those rollouts. Getting that maximum speed taxi, maximum efficiency. But will it be enough here? Spark holding the high ground. It's going to be difficult for Reaper to do much about that.
And the Spark, they've gotten free payload pressure here so far. On the point B, now the Dragons looking for their chance to stop it, looking for a way back on in. Shield is up, and here comes the Flux. Rhea opening things up, sending people up, and Lip not get away. Gushue there in the follow through. And the Spark now being pretty consistent here in point B as the Dragons look a little bit disheveled.
Yeah, Nimbani looking like their map for the Spark as rolling through first point should have been a much tougher test in my opinion. Normally that's a point where defenders can rely on at least a few fight wins in a row. And so far it's all Spark on this offense, so a huge turnaround from what we've seen so far in the series. It's going to be rough to contest this second point at all. I have to imagine Shanghai's just setting up for third.
I think you're Shanghai here. You're hoping that there's some way that A, you get Void on the flank again, and B, it's been a quiet game for Fleta so far, and charged up and good to go, but so is Otto on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fleta played fine. I just maybe think the timing on those initial aggressions weren't really ideal. Now Shanghai has some ultimates to work with, but so does the Spark.
Spark up here with the Supercharger, stand one, bit out of position. And the Dragons just can't find a foothold here so far. One by one, the Spark just grinding the Dragons into dust, and this could be an unceremonious, very quick capture of Nimbani if the Dragons don't do something soon.
Although, one thing for the Dragons, they've been very, very disciplined, banking all 6 ultimates. So if they can make a hold here, it's very easy to run the clock back for 4 or 5 minutes on this defense, but this fight is critically important here for the Dragons. They can't mess it up.
Void, patience here on the Flux. Stand one, though. Fun before the Flux even connects. Transcendence out here from the Spark. The Spark looking to put away. 2 down, 6 on 4. And the Spark looking to set one of the quickest times we've seen here on Numbani. Rhea and Gods B unstoppable on the point. 4 minutes left remaining. That's 4:15, Jake. That's fast.
That was just totally brutal, dominant. I'm struggling to comprehend what we've just seen. That's a disgusting offense on Numbani. Shanghai sticking too much with the Reaper comp. I think that comp is designed for first point, designed for those aggressive chokeholds in the upper room as the fight they went for. But you know, from that point forward, I think that the Hangzhou comp gets better and better and better. The Reaper comp gets worse, worse, and worse. And if you're Shanghai and you lose the first fight on the Reaper comp, you're in a tough spot, and showing why. I think Shanghai maybe being a bit overconfident in that rush strategy. I would have liked to see them maybe mirror match the spam comp, rely on that defender's advantage a little bit more. We'll see if they're able to make it work this time. I think you're kind of forced to play the Reaper now. You're all in on first point.
Well, what it means here is that we're guaranteed a map 4 no matter what. It's just a matter of, is it going to be 2-0 Shanghai after one of the most epic point A holds we've ever seen? Or is it going to be 2-1 after the Spark solidify dominance and look to turn the tide of battle here in the series? I think right now you take a look at it, given that they have 15 seconds more than what you usually have for point A, I think it's pretty good odds that we go into the next map 2-1.
Yeah, definitely. This should be Spark's map to lose here. 4:15 on the clock. They're going to have 2 to 3 cycles of all their ultimates, or at least they should, you know, to really just find some sort of pick, something to make it work. It's going to have to be textbook perfect defense here for Shanghai, but if there's any team that could do it, I got to believe it's Shanghai, so I'm not counting them out of this just yet.
Definitely wouldn't be wise, but and also let's not forget, it's 4 minutes to defend 33%. So, Jake, you don't even have all the usual defensive options you have in giving a little bit of progress. It's so tough for the defenders here.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, this Reaper comp doesn't care too much about your ults on offense. So, if they can just be a little bit more disciplined on the defense, maybe bait those attackers in a little bit deeper. You can see Spark, I think they're trying to bait an engagement here. They don't want to overstep. If Bebe gets caught in front of the ice wall, he can go down extremely quickly. So Shanghai, a much more measured defense this time. They want to let this Spark out onto this high ground.
Yeah, the Dragons aren't necessarily going for the crazy, we're going to rush you down, get Maywalled, and use Void in the first 2 seconds. It didn't work out well before. Although comes on in from the Spark. Gets the Dragons all grouped together. Izyaki's immortality field keeping him alive as Lip finds room to walk on forward. The Dragons, they get away with the first fight, and as you say, Jake, more measured is the key word there. They weren't anywhere near as aggressive.
Yeah, that's the way I want to see them play. I don't think there's any reason to put your defensive team into that choke point that the attackers are having to come through. You know, I think on the first defense, Shanghai overplayed their hand, maybe getting a bit antsy off that 2-0 lead in the series. So now that they're playing a lot slower, I think I didn't really see any issues with that defense. It felt really rock solid to me. Godsby on the flank is like the one playmaker that's available for the Spark, but there's no easy headshots there. You have to find something crazy to get a pick in that circumstance all alone like that.
Now the Spark decide to take another attempt at it. Drop the wall, move over to the right. The Dragons giving them a decent amount of space here. Spark though, the early immortality field out. The Dragons firing right back forward. Look at Void. Void, Flux is ready right now. They're down 1. Might see it soon, but they don't need it here. The Spark just kind of get picked apart. They can't make the flank attack work.
I like the idea to split up, you know, put point pressure on, try and get a long-range engagement, utilizing your Hangzhou and your Zen for the damage advantage, but it just doesn't work out there. Void using that amplification matrix gets a quick counter kill, so it's an even fight, and you know, from there the Reaper is able to get behind enemy Sigma, turn things around. Defense looking rock solid, 2 minutes off the clock and no progress to show for it. Have the attacker, so yes, Flux is available, but both teams have it.
What a morale buster this would be for the Spark. If you have all this time to win, you only have to get 33% and you don't get through, you get held to it wrong. See if that's the case. Well, Flood is down, so now they're not necessarily looking at that.
It's a huge
Spark,
pickup.
all they need to do is stay alive. Oh, they can't even do that. Void off the other end ends up with 3. Void just slamming the door on the Spark. And now with a minute 20 left, they've burned most of their time, Jake.
I'm just sitting here open mouth. That halt from stand 1. I mean, after the huge flux by Void puts multiple players down to sub 50 HP, and then Void's right in their face, like imagining he's playing Reaper, and he gets 6 players halted into his face. One left click did about 1,000 damage there. At least it looked that way for Void.
Oh man, it was dirty, and now there's only a minute left for the Spark, so it was once looking like an easy slam dunk. Now they might walk away with nothing. Ant Matrix out, dealt with a bit by the wall, but Blizzard is in, and this is so tough for the Spark. They're gonna get frozen, 2 frozen on entry, and they're knocked right on down. Izayaki this time on the cleanup. Okay, now if you're Spark, you panic. This is panic time, Jake.
Yeah, it's looking bad. We're in last fight territory, and Spark have to do it here, or they're not going to do it at all. I mean, yes, as you said, a third map will be forced. And oh, a delay on the Orisa. There's no worse target to delay. This is so bad.
This is where you might see
has to touch point.
Guangzhou might end up having to go Hammond here, which means you give up the supercharge just to get the point in time. But all right,
I think IDK has to do that. You can't give up supercharger. There's no way. That ultimate is broken. You need that ultimate. But how are you going to win this fight? Otto with the Blizzard has to be the playmaker they're looking for. Rushing down main, at least the Spark have point contest.
Oh, Godspeed was able to get on. They're going to drop the Blizzard. Guangzhou back in the fight. Drop superchargers. Extend the recent perhaps pay off. Lip though to the back. The Death Blossom takes down Guangzhou. And the Dragons, are they about to do it? Lip with the 4K to the back. It's Lip moving on in. They've somehow held the Spark. Do not complete a Numbani. It's a draw. But that is a bitter draw indeed.
That's painful for the Spark. I mean, yes, it's a draw. You could technically see that as a neutral map result. But if I'm Shanghai, right now, I'm cheering. And that makes all the difference in the world. That they were able to bring back what seemed like an unwinnable hold, make it happen. You know, I was selling that Numbani first point defense as one of the toughest points to break in the game. And then Shanghai just gave it up for free in the first defense. But that's why it's such a brutal point to take. When the defenders play it in that measured style, force you to come out into the open on the attack. The real problem is that, yes, you come out, but A, you're surrounded by all sides. B, as you retreat on attack, if you're forced to retreat, you're retreating around a corner into a tiny hallway. So one Maywall, you know, one control ability, it completely stifles that retreat, and the attackers just destroy you all. Or sorry, the defenders just destroy you all. So beautiful work by Shanghai on their second defense. Absolutely correcting their mistakes. Instant correction, and it results in a map draw. So very impressive work by them. I mean, you got to give credit to Spark for that insane attack round the first time around, but first point just proving too tough of a test the second time around.
It's just a morale breaker to me where for you, if you're the Spark, you think about the progress there where you're finally getting something going in the match. You have what should be an easy slam dunk attack to get your first map win. Then you just get held. You get stomped on. It's tough. Well, the Spark, they still have to win 3 maps. Dragons looking for the closer. We'll be back soon to see how it all concludes.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
sometimes you just got to philosophize about, is it better to have a loss than a draw? And I think the Spark have to be thinking that right now, Jake, after what we just witnessed, where everything was looking so good for the Spark until it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, 4:15 on the clock just to get one tick on first point. But Numbani is a classic stumbling block. It's a brutal first point to take. And, you know, I felt a little bit awkward after saying that. And then the Dragons just, you know, overplayed their hand, rushed the choke, and actually just immediately lost first point on their original defense. But they correct the mistake the second time around, and they just look untouchable. So the Dragons, yes, they show, you know, a little moment of weakness, a little moment of vulnerability, but then immediately it's cleansed away and the team's playing perfectly again. And that's in one map. So that's without the influence of the coaching staff. That's without, you know, anybody getting in there and telling them what to do. You know, they understood their own mistake and they're able to adjust, and it looked perfect from there on out. So Spark, yes, they found a couple moments so far this series to get fight wins, but the rest of it's been all Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about that, too, is that when you get just dominated on attack that hard, to actually come back with the defense that's way better than norm is just so crazy and unprecedented where, again, I don't know what the full stat story is, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the longest hold on point and Numbani history, given that it was 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And, again, frankly, if you're going to set that quick of a time on your first attack to just get completely owned on your second attack, it's just not something that happens. But it just happened there.
Yeah, I think the reality in Numbani is a bit of a weird map that first point, that choke point, is the best defender hold on the map. Third point is definitely the second best, but by far the very best way to hold is full hold. So it's a map where we either usually see full caps or a complete stuff on first point. And Shanghai actually showing both of those looks on the defense. But forcing more maps is the Spark. So, I mean, to their credit, series not over yet. They could still get some wins here. We'll see if Dragon's able to break this attack open a little bit more effectively.
It does mean that any path to victory now for the Spark would have to go through not one but two control maps, so they would have to undo the fate they had earlier today on control. It would be a different map, and this is something you like to see. Fleta onto the far.
I really like this look from Shanghai. I think it's almost impossible to win the mirror match brawling on this map. The defenders just have a huge natural advantage, so they're not going to play the mirror. They're going to play this far Mercy, punish the fact that it's May Reaper on the defense. Nobody who shoots up, not even a diva. So great options for Fleta to pipe out this damage. Stand one, just trying to farm up his primal, trying to stay alive. Void, though, taking a ton of pressure. Izayaki healing everyone so effectively.
Fleta finally falls, but so much damage being done in the process. Lets the Dragons get in, and they don't camp the res. Fleta is back up. I'm not sure that's a mistake you can afford making. Now you got to deal with Fleta again. The Dragons back up to a full 6. The Spark are finding themselves prisoners in their own base. Getting that stand one, that helps. That gives them a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, nice call by Bebe. That's exactly what they needed to hold on at this point. But, you know, the Dragons, they don't care about one hero death. They're going to keep fighting. They're going to dive in. Absolutely crazy levels of aggression there as Lip falls. Nano onto Fleta.
Nano on the Fleta from the top. Enough to take down Rhea, and May going, please, I don't want to leave the ice block. Fleta says, absolutely no way. Finishes out Otto right after. Ice block not lasting long enough, and Fleta can only be denied for so long here, Jake.
Yeah, I think with nobody left to really shut down this Fair Mercy combo, as long as Fleta stays pocketed, he should just be slowly cleaning this up. Stand one was the first death. Now he's back in the fight, so attackers just playing really effectively around their spawn advantage. They know it doesn't matter if you trade kills, as long as you keep that key Fair Mercy and Ana alive. Those are your core value generators. And Fleta absolutely delivering on that front.
I think that was one rocket, two supports is what we just saw there from Fleta. Hard to tell, we didn't have the direct angle, but it means that Fleta's actually going to stand this far and not swap off for point B.
Yeah, at the very least, they're going to attempt the snowball. They might end up swapping once they use this Barrage EMP combo, but this could very easily be what Shanghai need to break it open. IDK does have the sound barrier, but he's going to have to be pretty devious to hide from Lip.
The Dragons just exuding pressure onto the Spark right now. The Spark looking for some way to solidify. IDK finds himself hacked. Lip for an EMP opportunity, and Fleta just raw barrage to the back. Takes the opportunity, removes Gushui from the fight, and they still have the EMP reserve, but Fleta gets the Tracer! What a maniac over the top! Fleta dominating!
Stand with the Primal as well, takes down Otto. No kills so far for the Spark. They need to find some sort of opening to make this hold happen, but absolutely no cracks in the offense from Shanghai. Fleta over the top, Stand one right in the front. He's going to back off for a little bit of heals. Nano Boost comes out though. attackers diving
Fleta can't
forward.
be
Fleta
stopped.
so powerful with the nano boost.
Absolutely outrageous. Fleta, rocket after rocket, just completely bombing the Spark out of existence right now. One more pickoff, and the Spark right now just struggling to breathe on the point. It's just too much. The EMP should be the deal sealer here, and that is just brutality coming in from the Dragons.
Not even one kill going Spark's way that fight. Absolute, complete domination by Shanghai. That's textbook play. I mean, that initiation to kill the Orisa was so smart. Not only do they send the Diva Bomb in, which forces a Maywall, which forces Gushue to go off on his own. It's actually a Maywall from the Spark, just trying to defend themselves from a Diva Bomb. But that Maywall isolates your own Orisa. Fleta capitalizes with the barrage, and you know, from there the kill feed is all white. Shu doing a great job. Izayaki doing a great job staying alive in the backline, and then Ana just keeping his tanks alive. Everyone working together on the side of Shanghai to make that offense work. It's very difficult to avoid getting picked off at all. You know, you can't lose any attackers there, or things can easily fall apart, but they don't. They play perfectly, and Spark, wow, that's a really tough time to match here on Hanamura.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. And to me, when I look at that masterclass put on by Fleta, I think there's a few key moments to look at here. Number one is that on the attack, I think the Spark messed up terribly by not denying the resurrection. Like, Fleta died pretty deep inside the point. You don't let Fleta get back up. That's A. And then B, when Fleta is so on point B, that Fleta just turns, flicks, and takes out the Tracer with one rocket, it's not destined if you're the Spark. Like, it's gone. That's too many good occurrences happening for the Dragons in one go.
Yeah, definitely. And a different look on the sort of dive-esque strategy coming out here for the Spark. I imagine some swaps will come in. This looks pretty awkward. May, Tracer. So, okay, they're going to switch over to the Tracer, Genji. Try and punish these greedy backliners on the side of Shanghai. This is going to be an explosive matchup. Either the dive is going to snowball and kill absolutely everybody, or they're going to be completely stuffed for 4 minutes. Usually that's how it goes here. Hanzo's going to have his work cut out for him, though. Not the ideal DPS in this situation.
I feel like going back in time, but not so much, as Genji usually didn't get frozen by May and taken down back in the day. It was usually Tracer on the other end.
I think what makes this matchup so brutal is that if you can't find the opening pick on dive, it's incredibly difficult to farm ults. Otto is going to be looking at shields all game long, and he needs to get that Dragon Blade. If he can't find a Dragon Blade, he can't do his job, really. So maybe he's going to have that nano boost, but there won't be a Blade waiting for it unless some sort of huge pick comes out. And the rock onto Otto, he has to go get a pack.
Yeah, let's talk through Genji here. Genji also didn't get hit by rocks back in the day. The trials and tribulations of Amir Shimada here in Hanamura. Just trying to live his best life in 2020, Jake.
Yeah, all these divers experiencing a ton of pressure, but they are getting a bit more map control. Starting to close the surround here on Shanghai, but Shanghai staying aggressive, trying to poke out. If they can find just one pick, this surround could completely break apart.
Spark right now, I mean, they're playing a comp that has to be decisive on the dive, but they're just getting poked as they move on in. But now, we have an opportunity. Godspeed. Able to take down Fleta. Doesn't take an icicle to the head. Now this is good for the Spark. They're able to move on over. Otto might be struggling to get things done, but Godspeed working on forward, has a chance here for Lip. Lip getting very low, taken down. Rhea able to finish it off. And the Spark not doing too bad here, Jake. Looking like they should be close to getting point A.
Yeah, this should be a point A take still. Both supports, both tanks alive here for the defense. They're going to make a play for it. Stand one, using the Fortify, throwing his body on the point. Trying to stifle the supports is Otto, and it looks like it's working with the help of those minefield from the Hammond. First point is captured.
Yeah. The Dragons, I kind of feel like staying in a little bit too long. I mean, yeah, you get a quicker respawn back at point B, so it's not the end of the world. But the Spark now working with Momentum, and, you know, clear to me here, Jake, Nano Blade coming soon.
Yeah, it's all about the Nano Blade now. Izayaki does have the Transcendence, and Lee Jae-gon in the BAP, well, he can always have that Immortality field, which stops that one-shot combo potentially. It's possible for Adult to get a lot done here with the Nano Blade. You know, using that one-shot combo through Chance. You could even just one-shot the Tracer with just one swipe of the Nano Blade. But at the same time, it's a very tough test. It is far from easy to Nano Blade through a Trance, especially when there's an Orisa halting you around, a Sigma with the Rock. If Void gets his Gravitic Flux, he can also just completely counter the Nano Blade, so it's far from easy here for Otto. He's going to have to pull out something impressive.
Especially if Gushue falls before the fighting begins. They have to beat super early, but Izayaki's down.
No Trance.
Man advantage. This is really what they want to do there. They don't have to worry about the Transcendence. Self-destruct in from the Spark, but they're waiting so long. Bebe is down. Bebe doesn't even get the chance to nano auto, and now the opportunity is passed. Oh, tragedy for the Spark. That started out so good for them, Jake.
Honestly, I'm really impressed by Izayaki there. The Diva goes on him. Izayaki realizes he's isolated, but he doesn't lose his cool. He doesn't blow his trance. He actually lets himself fall, understands that, yes, it's not ideal. You don't want to die, but if he just trances for nothing there, Spark would just back out and then go Nano Blade, easy game. But Izayaki has the patience to recognize that if he trances there, that's a huge risk. So he actually holds it, lets himself die, and now he's back in the fight. And once again, Spark are in this tough position. Have to make a Nano Blade work, but no other ults to support it.
They also had to use beat to keep Bushui alive last night. Now, Auto, Nano Blade up. Moves forward, Transcendence in response, and this is going to be the end of the Blade. Auto forces the Transcendence, and they do get 2 pickoffs off the distraction. But now the Spark need more. Void, off on the side, takes down Bebe. He's going to deal with the sustain quite a bit. Spark are in a good spot, but they need just a little bit more, Jake, as Void is still unchecked.
1 tick for the Spark, but that might be all they get here. Void is looking very dangerous. Both healers down for the Spark, so no sustain available for these divers. And that's going to be the hold here for Shanghai. Going to switch things up, play a little bit more of a mobile composition. Imagine Void looking to switch over to the Diva potentially. Nope, going to actually switch stand 1 back to the Orisa, and it's a full reset on comps. Both teams going to the full spam comp, but Fleta able to hang on to 75% on the Blizzard. That's going to be a huge deal. If he just gets this Blizzard up, next fight's going to be free for the defenders. And remember, Shanghai set an incredible time on their offense, so Spark, they're feeling the pressure now.
Yeah, the Spark are already behind them are what they do, but with all these swaps, they've tanked their ult economy. Like, it is the opposite of money printer going burr. They're bankrupt at the moment, and it's going to take at least a fight to recover it. It's difficult time-wise. If they lose IDK immediately, they're not going to be able to get the Dragons to burn much.
Oh, this is devastating. I don't think the Dragons are going to use anything. I think the Dragons are just going to clean them up here. You know, getting that first pick, it's already 2 CP defense. You don't need to even get the first pick. You could lose the first 3 picks and just get 1 kill, and you'll probably still hold. So actually getting 1 kill on defense is pretty much fight over. Now sitting on a major ultimate advantage, what was a minor ult advantage. You know, the fact that Spark completely reset means they will be getting all their ults at a similar time. But the problem with that is that time might be after time has run out.
Yeah, it's just not an ideal situation for the Spark right now. The Dragons are holding all the cards, and at this point, you're just hoping for a miracle pickoff from Godspear or Bebe to just give them a favorable fight, but with a minute left, it's not ultra likely.
Yeah, Bebe has that trance, or close to it at least. He's going to need it to survive. The ult's coming to bear here for the Dragons. Spark, maybe they can take 2 fights, but already passing that 1 minute mark on the clock, and this is Hanamura. The fights go a long time, so this could be the final fight for Spark. They need to make it count. This looks very bad for the attackers.
Yeah, not exactly ideal is how I'm going to phrase this one. This is why you don't see teams go through the bottom a whole lot here in Hanamura. And the Spark, they just need to fall quickly and try again. You know, they got the Flux out from the Dragons, but the Dragons still in such a powerful position here, Jake. What did the Spark do in the final 30 seconds where, by the way, at this point, no matter what, they're playing for a draw?
Yeah, and wouldn't that be painful, right? Another draw, still down 2-0 in the series, if they can accomplish that. And far from certain, given how offensive or how successful Shanghai's offense was. Now Spark, not much choice here. Pretty much going to have to run it down mid. You got 15 seconds left. No real way to go any other path. And you know, Shanghai are going to know this. They're going to be able to set up and give themselves an ideal location. I like this from Otto and Rhea doing something a little bit fancy, coming in from the off angle, but Lee Jae-gon already striking down Gushue.
Yeah, it comes out of call. Oh, goodbye. They go get to the point. Yeah, Gushue was the point man there, and he got eaten alive. The Dragons with the 3-0. I don't think you'd call it a sweep given the draw. It's a little bit, you know, the technical terms get a little bit nuanced, but it's a 3-0 nonetheless. The Spark having a heartbreaking Numbani, and that's about it. Masterclass from the Dragons, though, especially there in Hanamura.
Yeah, I just love that moment from we're on Void's POV, and he's just Sigma ulting on a Blizzard on 6 attackers that are all in like a 1-player size choke. That was too much.
Yeah, Void, what more can you say? Just incredible play from top to bottom. But, you know, we're going to spread out the accolades a little bit because you want to talk about a player that came in here to this roster today and put on a good performance. It was Lip. Lip is our player of the match.
Yeah, I mean, he had huge plays, honestly. Lots of stuff on not only the Hangzhou, but the Reaper, succeeding on the Sombra as well, next to Fleta's Pharah. So, that's pretty impressive to be doing that. I think this shows that Shanghai have exactly what they need out of this DPS roster. If you've got Fleta, who's kind of that all-around superstar, probably going to be seeing a ton of starting time from him. Lip seems to be most comfortable on these projectile heroes, but he's kind of filling this flex role, these heroes that don't really fit into a category. Unique heroes like Reaper, Sombra. Hangzhou is a little bit less unique, I think, than those other two heroes, but the fact that Lip can play those means that along with Diem, they have a very balanced roster here on the DPS lineup for Shanghai. So very impressive stuff. His God's Beast was starting to come alive, especially on Route 66, and it was Lip who actually turned that around, started shutting him down. So you got to give him props. He's definitely ready to hang.
Yeah, it was really just exciting to watch on all ends. And for the Dragons, I just have to look to their ability to turn the tide, right? Like, Nambani strikes out to me where, okay, Nambani's a draw. Like, you could erase it from history and it doesn't matter. But you analyze what makes the Dragons so good right now is that they got completely wrecked. They got rolled over and stomped on that attack. And they just get back up and have one of the best holds we've seen on Nambani, with a 4-minute and 15-second time against them where they had to defend only 33%. That is the mark of a championship caliber team when you're able to come back from such a dire situation and go, all right, we're going to make a few adjustments and we're good.
It doesn't seem that pressure or mental defeat or crumbling, any of these things, it doesn't seem that they're issues for Shanghai. And what a turnaround for this franchise. Going from such a brutal season one, struggling last season, and now, it's clear the upward trend, right? The redemption arc is reaching its peak. This could be their season, ZP. I feel like every game I watch from Shanghai, I'm more and more impressed, not only by the individual players on their roster, but the way they play as a unit, the way they play as a team. That's what Overwatch is all about, is working with your teammates to create those insurmountable advantages. And Shanghai do that time and time again.
Well, it's safe to say the Dragons have more than banished the demons from the inaugural season. They were a force here in the Overwatch League in 2020. But that's going to wrap it up for us here today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, with more great action from the Pacific region.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League.